Too many things in our lives require too much effort. But when it comes to disinfecting surfaces with the new Clorox Disinfecting Mist, you just spray and walk away. No wiping required. The aerosol-free Clorox Disinfecting Mist kills 99.9% of germs on hundreds of surfaces with an easy-to-use continuous sprayer. And it comes in 2 delightful scents with the reusable sprayer and refills that help keep plastic out of landfills. Try the new Clorox Disinfecting Mist today. Use as directed. Rinse required on incidental food contact surfaces.
Underdog Fantasy is the fastest growing fantasy app and easiest place to play fantasy sports. Play season-long best ball, fantasy drafts where you only focus on the most fun part of fantasy, drafting your team. Just jump on UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app, draft your team, and that's it. Underdog handles the rest for you. No waivers, trades, or setting your lineups each week. And if drafts aren't your thing, they also have a pick'em game where you can win 20 times your money in a single night. Use promo code RADIO, and Underdog will double your first deposit when you sign up with up to $100 in bonus cash. Deposit $100, get $100 free. That's promo code RADIO. Terms and conditions apply.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
What's up, everybody? This is the Dirty Daddy, Chris Dickinson here, and you are listening to Keepin It Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll review Hyper Battle, preview Windy City Riot, and cover all latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWworld.com. We have features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and shared playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. You can visit njpwext.us today for details. Young boy, how you doing, man?
I think I can sum up the answer to that question with one audible sound. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Crack up a cold one.
I'm cracking up a cold one for the working man, you know. Actually, this is a Blue Moon. That's the brand you like, right?
Yes, I do like Blue Moon.
Yeah, so I got myself Blue Moon, but I got the Light Sky Citrus Wheat, okay? This is like 4% alcohol. It's got, 3.6 grams of carbs, 95 calories. We're going low cal because Jeremy Donovan's getting married soon, and I got to watch these pounds, okay? I got to get fitted, all right? I can't be out here, packing down, the heavy carbs. I gotta keep it low for my boy. You know what I'm saying?
Can't be out here drinking the Broken Skull IPAs.
Yeah, no, I don't like IPA. Well, I can drink IPAs, but I don't know. They taste terrible. Actually, I've never had this, so I'm gonna try this live in the air. I'll let you know.
All right, live taste testing here of this new Blue Moon gimmick.
Yeah, it's like if you took a really good Blue Moon and then you mix it with some dishwater, but it's got like, Orange Dawn soap.
Yeah.
So it's still got some of that like floral aroma. It's not bad.
Okay.
It's not great either though.
What's the star rating?
This is a solid 3 star.
Gentleman 3.
The Cody. The 3-star savior rating. The Cody Rhodes.
Oh man.
I gotta tell you, bro. I know this is off subject, but I just want to broach the subject. Were you that impressed with Cody and Seth Rollins? Because I was, and I don't understand people that call that match a classic. It's like they never watched She-Hulk.
I mean, I thought it was a good match for WWE standards. I think I went about 4 stars on it.
Too high.
I thought it was a solid match from both guys, especially compared to everything else on both nights at WrestleMania. I thought it was, a good matchup. Now, Dave going 4.5 and some other people's going, pretty high on it. I'm like, okay, maybe in my opinion, I think that's high, but if people enjoy the match that much, good for them.
Jeremy, the consummate politician, giving people the straight middle of the road answer, not trying to offend anybody. I'll tell you guys, that match sucked.
Hey,
actually, I will say this. After a few sips of this Blue Moon, it's actually not that bad. It's kind of when you compare it to like other light beers in the same range. It's probably better than say like a Bud Light or something like that.
Gotcha.
So not bad. I know you're thinking of I know you're not like a big drinker, but next time you're out, you might want to get one of these instead of the classics.
Yeah, I'll give it a try.
Nice. Well, we had a crazy week. Bunch of big shows. We got another big show coming up. Bunch of news items. I mean, it's been a stacked week.
Yeah,
it feels like it's been a while since we had a week this busy in a while.
Yeah, like you mentioned, tons of shows to talk about, a lot of stuff to review, a lot of new stuff. So let's dive into everything here. I think the first big thing we got to talk about, we had Hyper Battle this past Saturday, April 9th in Sumo Hall. Big card here. We'll run down the card, talk about the matches, the angles, the promos, and everything that's building up from the results of this card. So the show opened.
Also, Jeremy, I watched the backstage comments.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm all in on this one. Fully committed. And you know what? They furthered a lot of the storylines. This wasn't like your typical, they said some funny, interesting stuff, but it's kind of ancillary. No, there was like actual forwarding of the storylines that you needed to see in this particular event's backstage comments. So I was like, oh, damn, I'm glad I watched this.
Nice. Let's start off with the opening contest here. So the show opened up. We had the Gorillas of Destiny, Tama Tonga, and Tangaloa teaming up with Hiroshi Tanahashi and Jado, and they defeated the Bullet Club team of Bad Luck Fale, Chase Owens, Gato, and Yujiro Takahashi, 10 minutes and 28 seconds. And this was a pretty big win if you've been following the story here. The GOD/Hantai team teaming up with Tanahashi and Jado, they've been failing over this past tour to defeat the Bullet Club team, and Bullet Club has been getting one up on these guys every step of the way. But finally here, this team of GOD, Jado, and Tanahashi were finally able to get the win here, and it was Jado, the guy who's been the one who's been eating all the pins in these multi-man matches. He's the one that he locked Gato in that crossface, and Gato tapped out.
Yeah, this match was, for an opener, considering the guys that were involved with this and the story that's been going on. If you've watched a lot of the like preview tags, there was nothing really here that was surprising. We kind of called it on the preview episode last week that we thought of this would be the time where Hantai finally gets the big win. That proved to be the case. And, I think the big talking point for this match was seeing Tama Tonga and Tangaloa. And correct me if I'm wrong, I can't remember. Did they walk out with the Lion Mark shirts on, or did they get presented with those post-match?
It was post-match. So on the Road to show before, Jado did wear a Lion Mark shirt.
Right.
But this night they all were wearing like their GOD shirts. And then after the match, like Jado had his shirt, he put it on, and then Tanahashi had two Hantai shirts, and he handed them to Tama Tonga and Tangaloa, and they both put them on.
Right. Now, before I get to that, just speaking of the match itself, nothing blow away, nothing crazy. I'd probably go sub 3 stars. It was fine. But, 10-minute opener. This was the big payoff to the story that they've been telling over the last 2 tours. And finally, Hantai was able to pick up a win and kind of overcome all the shenanigans that Bull Club and Gato were kind of throwing at God and the Hantai crew. I did like the finish where everybody on the Hantai side ended up putting everybody in the Bull Club side into a crossface.
Mhm.
We see that kind of setup oftentimes in these matches, but it's usually not a finish. It's usually like a really funny kind of just like spot where everyone's like in the submission hold, but then eventually the guy that's supposed to the legal guy, he usually gets out and everyone eventually gets out. It just kind of builds to the finish. But here, that wasn't really the case. It was literally the definitive finish. And, seeing, Gato tap out was probably very satisfying for people that have been following this storyline.
Yeah, and I feel like we've been talking about this, that the domestic crowd seems very bought into this storyline, or very excited when Tanahashi handed these guys the Hantai shirts. And yeah, it definitely seems like, I think a lot of people might not be into it across the board, but I do feel like at least the domestic audience is very into it, in this idea of, this long time partnership of Jado and Gato being broken up. And then also the fact of Tama Tonga and Tangaloa, accepting the lion mark and becoming a part of the home team.
Yeah, I mean, I could see why, like say U.S. audiences and international audiences might not be as into this, because, I mean, there's not a lot of great wrestling taking place to really sink your teeth into, but that's not the point of this story. The point of the story is to get GOD over as accepted entities on the Hantai side and kind of establish them so that moving forward, they can transition into actual meaningful matches and actual meaningful feuds, whether that be in singles or tag roles. We don't know. We did get an inkling of it later in the show, but that's been the whole setup here. So I think for a lot of people that are like sort of tapped out of New Japan and tapped out of anything Bull Club or House of Torture adjacent, I get their reasoning there, but the reality is this is a very hot program on the domestic side. Every single domestic audience is eating this up. And I think that for those of you that are kind of coming into it with an open mind and watching it with an open mind, you're actually seeing something kind of special unfold, I think, because GOD seem to be thriving in this position. And, provided they continue to kind of guide them the right way, I think this is going to be, an awesome next step for them career-wise, hopefully.
Right, and this will not be the last that we saw of GOD on this show. We'll talk about that, but this definitely, set the seeds for what was to come with GOD later on in this show.
Yeah, during the post-match comments, both, Tama and Tangaloa, they both really emphasized, like, what it meant to them being presented with the Lion Mark shirt and, transitioning away from representing the Bull Club and, accepting a role as a good guy and as a defender of the company and everything like that. And, Tangaloa was good in that position, but Tama, like, I kind of believed him almost. I mean, I might be getting worked here, but he's like, 10 years since I won this shirt. And, like, Tanahashi came out and, like, congratulated him. And so they're kind of really giving them the seal of, like, and I think that this is the way they're going. I don't think they're going to do a swerve, but, like, my Western mindset is, like, if they wanted to do a swerve, this is the perfect setup for one. And no one's talking about seeing it coming. And, like, I just kind of want to, like, hedge my my bets a little bit and be like, they could swerve us off this. Yeah, and it might work, but I don't think they are.
Yeah, I've seen a few people mention that the potential of this being like an ultimate swerve to get back at Tanahashi for whatever reason, but I don't know. Like, I just don't think like it would really make a ton of sense. Like, I feel like they've done a really good job of building up Tama Tonga and Tangaloa as baby faces, and it creates a whole fresh coat of paint for those guys. It opens up some new potential matchups, and it's just something interesting happened. So if it does become a swerve, I think it'd be pretty dumb, and it would just kind of set things back to the way they were.
Right. And the good news here is for those who haven't been thrilled with the matches themselves, this was the final piece of this part of the story, and now God are kind of free to go on and do other things, and the guys that were in the Bull Club, they're free to go on and do some other things. We'll get to that later.
Yeah. So let's move on to the second match here. We had the LIJ team of the Dragon, Shingo Takagi, teaming up with Tetsuya Naito. They defeated the United Empire team of Aaron Hanare and Will Ospreay, 9 minutes and 23 seconds.
Yeah, fine match, nothing like blow away here. You know, I think we got a little bit of a tease of Will and Shingo and Will and Naito. But, you know, I don't think it was anything super definitive. Shingo did, you know, Shingo's been doing interviews and been talking about how he's setting his eyes on other prizes. He's been saying that since like January, since he dropped the IWGP heavyweight title. And, you know, there were people that were hoping that it would be like the GHC title, or maybe he was going to go to AEW, you know, something really illustrious like that. And people have just kind of been trying to figure out what it is, what prize he's discussing and talking about. Well, it seemed like here he tried to somewhat tease that maybe he'd be interested in going after the Rev Pro British title. But, you know, Will didn't seem to be too keen to even go down that road with him. That might be a tease for later on. It looks like they're doing other things with that title, but I did want to make note of the fact that he did make overtures to try and potentially challenge for that title. And so I don't know if that's like setting something up for later on down the road. Also, Ospreay talked in his post-match comments about how him and Naito have never wrestled in a singles match. Now, we've been saying that on this show
for years.
For, I think, 3 years now. But it's starting to become like something that's coming to public light where people are realizing like, oh, I guess those guys never have wrestled. Interesting.
Yeah, one thing I do want to note, on the way to the ring, Ospreay did tweet out a video of Jon Moxley's wife, Renee Paquette, a video he edited of her saying that she was excited about Will Ospreay. Also, that is building to the Windy City Riot match this Saturday of the main event, Jon Moxley versus Will Ospreay. And then a couple listeners here also have pointed out the Rev Pro, you know, Shingo's eyes on the Rev Pro belt. So I have a couple questions here. So Reddit user Viking Payne says, I recall Ospreay saying in one of his interviews that he was going to rechristen the Rev Pro British Heavyweight Championship as the IWGP British Heavyweight Championship. Will that actually happen, or will it go the way of the Chaos Mole storyline?
Well, first off, that's a great question, but let me just ask you, Jeremy. I saw that he tweeted something to Renee Paquette, and I saw like that Rocky even was like, I hope this guy gets his ass kicked. What was the video? Was it something that he took out of context from her podcast?
Yeah, so she has her podcast, Oral Sessions, and I guess at some point they were talking about Will Ospreay, and he cut it up to where it made it look like she said that she's excited about Will Ospreay.
That's heel shit. That's funny. I love the one video. He's like, "Oh, I love Joshi Pro Wrestling." Anyway, so yeah, the thing with the Rev Pro British IWGP deal, I think that wasn't something that was ever intended to be taken seriously. I think that was just like an offhanded comment that he made to garner heel heat, and it did, because you know people in England and in the UK were like, "Fuck you! No, it's the Rev Pro title."
Right, and I think as long as Rev Pro is still a functioning promotion, I don't think they're going to slap the IWGP branding on it. Now, if it was like a situation where maybe the company was folding or wasn't going to cease operations anymore, maybe New Japan would be interested in absorbing that title. But I think as long as Rev Pro exists, it will still be the Rev Pro title.
You know, one thing that's interesting too is New Japan hasn't really booked anything for that title since Will Ospreay won the belt from Zack Sabre like 2 years ago, like pre-pandemic. I do know that they're still like loosely affiliated, but you know, the whole IWGP conception has been thrown into dismay with COVID and everything like that, plus with ROH sort of going under and then being resurrected and bought by AEW. The entire union is kind of very precarious. And I do remember there was an interview recently where Will said he's the only thing that's been keeping the ties between New Japan and Rev Pro even going. So, I think that's another interesting thing to take note of, because there was a time where it literally felt like the British title was like a fourth singles heavyweight men's belt, and now it's never. I mean, it's featured on the show because he carries it out, but they've had no matches for it in like over 2 years.
Yeah, I think part of that is due to pandemic, because we are going to see Ospreay and Suzuki coming up sometime here soon for the Rev Pro title. So I think as borders open up and it's easier for people to get back and forth places, I think we will start seeing potentially more British title matches in New Japan.
Hopefully. I mean, I've always thought that was a very good partnership for both companies, and I'm not saying that they don't have ties. Obviously, we've got young lions over there, and we've seen some interactions, but it's been a lot lessened over the past couple of years than it was pre-pandemic, and so maybe you're right.
And then the Reddit user, The Dark Soldier, says, given Shingo eyed at the Rev Pro title after the tag match, could this be a setting up for a future title match at Dominion or even a US or UK show? Heck, could Shingo win the KOPW trophy, Ospreay win the US title, and have the big winner-take-all match? I say this because that's just what wrestling does now, winner-take-all matches. But here, it's 3 instead of 2.
You never know. My personal opinion was like when I saw that, I did think, maybe a breadcrumb for down the line, but it doesn't seem to be something that's being set up in the definite or immediate sense. And what goes on with Shingo and the KOPW title later on in the show makes a lot more sense in the fact that like he's kind of out of the world title picture. He's out of the US title picture. The Never title would kind of be a step down because he's already kind of conquered that area. He's not a junior anymore. What's the one like prize that's sort of sitting out there that's within the confines of New Japan? Well, it's like the Rev Pro title. He made overtures, and Will doesn't seem to be interested at all. And it's not like Rev Pro's going to mandate him to defend against Shingo, who has maybe never, I can't remember if he has wrestled for Rev Pro. It's been very sparingly. So that kind of cut him off, and it gives him no path to gold. Thus, the KOPW route becomes viable for him later on in the show. So that's what I thought the whole point of that was. But it would be interesting if later on this does potentially lead to some sort of KOPW or some sort of British title match down the line. But I wouldn't count on it because this doesn't seem to be your typical, Shingo coming out and doing the belt symbol and like pointing to the sign, and they're clearly going to have a match. This didn't seem to be that. I think this is more of a setup for now for the KOPW story.
Yeah, I do think it's kind of some breadcrumbs, or at least planting the seeds for something that's to come later on. Obviously, Ospreay has his hands full right now. He's going to face Tanahashi down the line. He's going to face Moxley this weekend. He has a Suzuki match coming up. So Ospreay's kind of busy right now. So I think down the line, like Dark Soldier I think said, Dominion, that's a big stage. Maybe that's something they do there, or who knows? Maybe they even hold it off till Wrestle Kingdom. I don't think it's going to happen right away, but I think they were just kind of planting the breadcrumbs. So for people who are really pay attention, like us and our listeners, they're kind of catching that, and when it comes up, it's not going to be surprised when it happens.
Well, the way I took it was that, like you said, yes, it could be a potential breadcrumb situation. It also could just be a throwaway. They did it casually and light enough to where if a year from now they decided to run that, if that was even viable at that point, then they can throw it into a video package. And if they never go back to it, it's just whatever it is, But I didn't feel like it was anything 100% set in stone the way that typical title challenges are for like long-term stories.
Right. So after that match, we had the first title match of the evening. The IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles were on the line. The champions, 6 or 9, Master Wato, Ryusuke Taguchi, they retained. They defeated Bullet Club's cutest tag team, El Phantasmo and Taiji Ishimori, in 15 minutes and 13 seconds.
Yeah, the match was fine. 15 minutes might have gone a little long for my liking, especially since this wasn't necessarily your classic high octane like junior style match But for what it was good. I'd probably go like 3.25, maybe 3.5 at most. I probably wouldn't even go that high, honestly, but it was fine. Not a big fan of the finish. They did the classic, Taguchi does the roll up and gets his pants pulled down and, puts his ass in someone's face and, beats them with a roll up pin while they're being like stink faced. And, that shit's kind of disgusting to me. I'm not a big fan of that whole aspect of Taguchi's deal. I mean, if you like the ironic bullshit wrestling, you probably like that. I don't know. But 6 or 9, they retain here. I think we both thought, Bull Club's Q's tag team might win just because, they hot potato those belts around, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Match was fine. For what it was, I think it was slotted perfectly on the show, though.
Yeah, I thought the match was a good match. I'm about 3.5 range. There was a lot, you mentioned a lot of shenanigans. There was Team 6 or 9 ending up in a 69 position at one point in the match. And I'll see Chris Charlton and Kevin Kelly, a lot of 69 kind of jokes along the line there too. But overall, I thought, there was some good action here. And like you mentioned, Taguchi picking up the win there with the roll up with his tights being exposed and his ass in ELP's face. And we do learn down the line that Doki and Kanemaru are going to be the next challengers, which makes sense because I do remember those guys teaming up earlier in the tour and getting a win. And Kanemaru had pinned like Bushi and Shingo and beat Bushi and Shingo in a tag match. So if I thought more about Doki and Kanemaru being the next setups, maybe I would have gone with 6 or 9 retaining. But yeah, overall here, good matchup and champs retain.
Well, we talked about it on the pre-show. There's not like a large list of, established junior tag teams, but they can throw together any 2 juniors at any time and, create a tag team. And so you're right. Those guys were tagging. This is one of those things where if you didn't see the post-match comments, it makes less sense. But once you saw the backstage comments, what ended up happening was Bull Club's Q's tag team pretty much blew off the whole thing. ELP was like, dude, it's been like over a year, 82 weeks, where I'm literally living out of my suitcase. I haven't been home in literal months. I'm just going from the States to Japan to Europe to Japan. And then he's like, I'm going to be back here in like just a couple weeks. And he's like, and why? For the junior tag titles? I don't give a fuck about the junior tag titles. He's like, that's not why I'm doing this. He's like, Ishimori, you care about the junior tag titles? It's like, oh. So they like literally just buried the whole thing. Like, let's just go after the IWGP Junior title. He's like, yeah. And they're like, all right, so Super Juniors, you win your block, I win my block, we fight each other, right? He's like, yeah, that makes sense. So they kind of blew the whole thing off. But when Team 6 or 9 came to do their interview, boom, jump zone. Kanemaru and Doki were all over them. Satori special and or whatever he calls it. They hit him with the whiskey and Doki's pipe was laid all over them, and they were just kind of fucked up, and it was really, really funny. They just got jump zone, and like the Suzuki-gun Junior guys were like making it very clear that they're going to be the next junior title challengers. And then when they walk away, like Taguchi was like, "What was that about? I have no clue why they did that to us. That was not clear at all why they attacked us just now. God, I wish they would have said what it was that they were intending when they hit us. Why did they hit us? It's so weird. Well, I wonder who our next title challengers are going to be anyways." And it's like, maybe it will be Fujita and
and Oiwa.
And Oiwa. He's like, you guys are young lions. Muster up some fighting spirit. Come fight us. We will put these titles on the line against you two. And he's like, unlike those other jerks who attacked us and then said nothing, made it very unclear why they attacked us at all. So like basically like Taguchi's just completely no-selling the whole attack, being like, damn, that was so weird. Why would they do this to us? Like not putting 2 and 2 together that like they clearly are like making their intentions known that they're the next challengers. Like he's just playing aloof about the whole thing. Like, oh God, that was so weird. Well, I wonder who the next guys are going to be anyways.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So that was the angle. They did a lot of angles like that during the backstage stuff. It's kind of interesting.
Nice. Well, next matchup here, we had the provisional KOPW title match, the no rope ring out match. And we have a new KOPW provisional trophy holder. Taichi defeats Toru Yano 4 minutes and 18 seconds. So this was not a full-on traditional sumo wrestling match because Taichi, he did not want to disrespect sumo wrestling, but there was no ropes and it was ring out rules, so you had to throw your opponent out the ring to win.
Yeah, and it was interesting because we were wondering about, like, well, what are the rules? Is it like strict sumo rules? And like these guys were out there throwing, leg kicks,
strikes,
and forearms. It's like, clearly this is not, straight up sumo rules. They did give them like sumo style sashes, but they didn't like get up in the full garb. They didn't throw the salt, so it wasn't, again, they were in Sumo Hall. So, I mean, that's like one of the national, like, key arenas for sumo wrestling in Japan in period. So I think they could have gotten some flack if they'd done something disrespectful,
Yeah. Taichi did have a pretty dope robe, sumo robe for his entrance, and like you mentioned,
I mean, you know how I feel about those. Like, I think you and I both need Keepin It Strong Style kimono. So
yeah,
I think that'd be a hot like ticket item if we ever sold those.
Oh yeah. And also we had Mio Abe making her return here, accompanying Taichi to the ring for this matchup. So that was always good to see.
Yeah, they kept it short, 4 minutes, nothing crazy. It's kind of a comedy-esque match, but at the end of it, when it got serious, I mean, Taichi just kind of dumped Yano out of the ring, which he deserves because, he sucks and he's gone. And this man Taichi like made some declarations post-match, letting people know like, this is not going to be your typical KOPW like you're used to. I'm going to raise this thing to the main event level and actually make this title worthwhile, which is something that nobody that's held that title has ever said. Not Suzuki, not Yano, not Chase Owens.
Right. Yes, he wants to make it, a main event thing. He then calls out the Dragon Shingo Takagi, pretty much saying, Shingo, you have nothing going on right now. Why not challenge me for this KOPW trophy? Which later we do find out that match does get made official. But that was kind of the closing angle here. Taichi celebrates. He throws a challenge out. So we have several questions here about this matchup and the post-match angle.
Before we get to that, during the backstage comments, this was another big sort of angle. So they did have a face-to-face altercation with Yano with Taichi and Shingo Takagi, where Shingo like pretty much came out and he's like, you think like you can like elevate your career off my name, off the hard work I've done just because I'm a former world champion and you're not? And he's like, you think this is a joke? You think this is a game? You think I'm going to play with you? He's like, I'm not going to play with you. He's like, I'm going to fuck you up. Like, and then Taichi just kept like laughing him off and basically being like, whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do it. And they kept teasing that they're going to have an island death match. I don't think they're going to actually do the island death match. But they literally kept saying like, we'll do it in, I forget the name of that island. It's like Gunjibaya or whatever. He's like, we'll do it in Gunjibaya. We'll do it in Gunjibaya. He's like, I got all night. We'll do it wherever, whenever. But like Shingo was like, oh, I'm going to come up with a stip and you're going to regret like doing this because the stip I'm going to come up with is going to be tough and you're going to get hurt. You're going to get hurt really bad. And Taichi is like, listen, you're the challenger. I'm the champ. You got to step to me. As long as it's in the main event, you're going to find out. He's like, this is not a game either. He's like, he's like, KOPW is not a joke. He's like, KOPW is in the main event now. And then she goes like, if I win KOPW, I'm going to retire it. So like, it's kind of a win-win either way. Cause like if, and not like in the ironic sense, when we always say with Yano, it's a win-win because it keeps it at the low level. It's like, if Taichi wins, I think he might actually like do things that are worthwhile with it, which might be cool. And if Shingo wins it, he might just get rid of the whole thing altogether, which is also a very
great option.
Way to go, so.
Yeah, that'd be great. But yeah, a lot of questions here. So first, Dom Homie 101, he says, which pro wrestling sumo fight was better? Taichi versus Yano at Hyper Battle or Big Show versus Akibono at WrestleMania 21?
I just got to say, too, I love that the show is called Hyper Battle. I love the throwback names that they're using for all these events this year. Like that appeals to me.
Yeah.
Doesn't appeal to everybody, but like for like older, like old school fans like me, like that's what I like. Yeah, I think. Well, let me expand on this. You got those two. You got Yokozuna versus Earthquake on Raw, and then you've got Hulk Hogan versus the Giant in the sumo battle. On top of Kobo Arena with the monster trucks. Those are probably like the most significant sumo style matches in wrestling history. I gotta say, this might be the best one.
Yeah, I think it was. And like we mentioned, also not the full-on traditional sumo match here, but like I mentioned, it was short, very simple, nothing too crazy. And so, yeah, I would probably go with this one over the Big Show Akebono.
Yeah. Oh, that one sucked.
Yeah, it was really bad.
I felt bad for Big Show.
MJ does PR. He says, are you interested in KOPW now that Taichi is the Monarch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot more than I was with Yano.
Yeah, I think with Yano, we kind of knew what we were getting, kind of the comedy shtick. We're going to get some kind of blindfold gimmick, some kind of drinking gimmick, kind of your light opening card thing here. But with somebody who like Taichi, who has been upper mid-carder, somebody who's gotten IWGP title shots, who's done well in G1s and New Japan Cups, especially with a first challenger like Shingo, it definitely makes things more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is, could it still end up being a joke at the end of the day? Sure. But, I'm fine with the idea of giving him a shot and letting us see like where that goes. Hopefully, if it is a true elevation, that might be something that's worthwhile in the company.
Yeah. Viking Pain says, Taichi claimed that he will elevate the KOPW trophy to main event worthy, but do you guys think that will actually happen? And how likely are we going to see a death match as one of the stipulations in the future? I recall Shingo saying he wanted to have a death match, and Taichi called out Shingo to be his first defense.
I think that could really happen, honestly. I mean, we've seen I Quit match, and that's not that far from a death match. And we've seen Texas death matches, quote unquote, in New Japan over the past couple of years. And that stipulation has become a prominent one in AEW, and there's a lot of kind of crossover between those two companies. So I don't think that's outside of the realm of possibility at all.
Yeah, I think they could definitely do that. It is going to be the main event of one of the Golden Fight Series shows, so that's an interesting main event that you could do. Will Taichi ultimately raise this thing to higher levels if they keep giving him challengers like this and putting it in main event situations? I definitely think it could be elevated, but I also think it could be a Suzuki situation where we get also excited that somebody like Taichi wins, and then maybe he gets like one or two good defenses, and then it ends right back up with Yano.
Now, here's the only thing, and I want to pay attention because maybe I think we missed something with this question. He asked how realistic it is for the idea of a death match. When I think of death match, my first initial thought is always going to be Texas death match or some similar style match. But then I realized he might actually mean like Japanese style death match. What are the chances that they actually do like the light tubes and the skewers and all of that? And that's an interesting proposition because that is a possibility.
Right. I mean, I think Captain Shingo, I feel like it's very versed in the style of wrestling that he watches and would be interested in wrestling in. So I definitely think we could see something along those lines. Next question here from Les Commission 7252. Since this is the end of the Toriano KOPW run for now, do you guys think that the KOPW name will be built to bigger and better heights?
I mean, maybe not. It's one of those things we just have to wait and see how it plays out. I know that's sort of a non-answer, but I don't know how much equity the company's really putting into this concept. I mean, they might like what it is and where it is right now, and this is just kind of like a small diversion for the time being, because I mean, how long can you do Yano in comedy matches? You can't do that forever. You kind of have to get off that track at some point, but hopefully they go the way that we're all hoping they go and treat it with a little bit more seriousness and lend some credibility to the idea of what it is.
Yeah, and like I've been saying, I'm excited that Taichi has it, but I'm not going to, put all my hopes up and get super excited, kind of like we got with Suzuki. We're like, all right, Suzuki's going to have the shoot matches or death matches or, all these kind of crazy, matches where he beats people up. And then, he immediately dropped it back to Yano, and that could happen. Like you could have Taichi retains against Shingo, and then he has a rematch with Yano, and Yano gets it back, and we're just kind of back to where we are.
That's very possible.
Yeah. Dark Soldier says, Lord Taichi holds the KOPW trophy, and given what he has planned, I'm excited. Is this what any title needs when it's poor condition? Give it to Taichi.
I mean, they did seem to do some wonders, him and Zach, for the heavyweight tag titles when they had them. So, and I mean, I can't sit here and say that his never title runs were a bad thing or anything like that. I felt like he had some pretty good matches when he was never champion. So maybe he has a point there. I don't know.
Yeah, Taichi, man, just elevating everything.
Yeah.
So after this matchup, we had a video package announcing the G1 date. So the video package said that the New Japan's Legendary Summer Tournament will be coming back in its regular time slot beginning on July 16th and ending on my birthday, August 18th. So G1 is back to its regular schedule, the big summer tournament here. Had some questions. Viking Pain says, I may be wrong, but it looks like the G1 this year may have more dates than usual. Could this be a sign that the blocks are expanding? For example, 11 men per block instead of 10. I believe Japan is loosening to restrictions soon, too, and NJPW will have the ability to issue more work visas. And then similar question by WizFactor, thoughts on the unusual number of nights for Best Super Juniors and G1?
I didn't notice that. Did you notice anything?
For me, I did not know. To me, G1's always been a month long, and maybe there are more dates, and maybe they're trying to spread it out more. But I don't know. To me, I feel like G1's always a month long. So to me, it didn't seem like it was an outrageously number more shows.
Okay, so I'm looking right now, and it says 20 dates for the G1, which is exactly what it is every year, pretty much, right?
I think so, yeah.
I'm just recounting because I'm not like great at math, so even though I work in finance, bear with me.
Well, shouldn't it be like 19 nights?
20 nights.
Because you have...
There's 20 nights.
Yeah, because I guess you would have the A block final, B block final, and the overall final would be the last 3 nights. So yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I thought it was always 20 nights. Is it not always 20 nights?
Well, so you have 10 people in a block, right? And so that's 9 matches, right? Or 9 nights of block action.
Dude, you got to tell me because, like I said, I'm not good at this stuff.
Yeah, I would have to look back at previous schedules, but to me, it seems like it's the normal.
Okay, I'm looking right now. Last year they had 19 nights, and that's typically, I guess, what they've been doing because most, like you said, yeah. So usually it's 9 and 9, or 10 on each block. So yeah, so that's 18 matches between or 18 nights between the 2 blocks, and then 1 final night. So that is interesting. I wonder what that means.
Yeah.
And I haven't looked at the Super Junior dates. I guess we didn't do the work. We didn't do the research ahead of time. So maybe that could mean expanded field. Like maybe they have, but that math doesn't add up. If they expanded it by 1 person each night, wouldn't that add even more nights than just 1?
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
That's interesting. I don't know what that means. I guess we'll have to wait and see what they actually announce. But yeah, they've got 20 nights announced.
Gotcha. Yeah, it seemed that that 1 extra night does seem kind of weird, but and maybe it was a misprint or something. I don't know. I guess we'll look back and see exactly what it is going to be.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, man, could there be 1 block with more people than the other?
Maybe.
That's the only thing that sounds like it would make sense to me if that was the case. Like 1 block has 11 people and 1 block has 10.
Yeah, but I feel like why would they do that? I feel like that's, I don't know.
Because maybe they've got like some people that they can't leave out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just spitballing here.
unless if they add more people, they do more block matches in a night than usual to make up for that, for not having to do a bunch of extra nights.
Maybe. I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. That's a great point, though, Viking Pain. I didn't even notice, to be honest. I just always thought it was 20 nights.
Yeah, same here. Well, moving on in Hyper Battle, after this G1 announcement, we had the Cole Skull Sonata coming out to vacate the IWGP United States Championship. So he comes out, cuts a promo, pretty much saying, with his orbital bone injury, he's not going to be able to compete anytime soon, and he wants to hand the belt over to the former champion, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and then when he's fully healed, he would come back and hopefully challenge Tanahashi for the title. We had Will.
So that's actually not what he said. I listened, because I watched the action. That's what Chris Charlton said. I think it was a mistranslation. He said that he was just vacating the title and that he wanted Tanahashi to be the first person to win it because he wanted to beat Tanahashi for it. He wasn't offering to give it to Tanahashi, which is what I thought was the original implication as well. But apparently, based on the proper translations, he was only basically, I think he was just suggesting that Tanahashi should be like the first person nominated to fight for the vacant title, essentially.
Gotcha. Oh, I feel like Will Ospreay might have got the mistranslation too, because he came out and was telling Sonata, no, you need to give the belt to me. You can't give it to Tanahashi. I'm the one that broke your face, so I'm the one who should be handed over the belt. Then Tanahashi comes out and he confronts Ospreay, tells him to shut up, cuts a promo in English, saying that him and Ospreay should fight for the U.S. title. And we do find out that match would be made official for May 1st, Wrestling Dontaku.
Yeah, the Fukuoka Dome, or I think they call it the PayPay Dome now.
Yep.
That's a really big venue. New Japan hasn't run it in a very long time, and this is a marquee match. The last time that we had a match between Will Ospreay and Tanahashi, Will Ospreay was still a member of Chaos. He was still a junior heavyweight, and they wrestled each other in in one of the final nights of G1. I think that was like almost 3 years ago. I can't remember the exact specific date, but that was the night where Will Ospreay did defeat Tanahashi to kind of cap off a very successful G1 run for him. So during the post-match comments, he kind of made notice of that. And he was like, dude, I already wrecked you years ago when I was a junior, and now I'm not even a junior now, like I'm ascended. You think I'm not going to wreck you even worse? Like, you're very delusional, essentially. Like, you're much older, and I'm like bigger, faster, stronger, and more experienced. Like, you're fucked.
Yeah, Ospreay's Super Saiyan ascended now.
Yeah, and then Tanahashi was like, man, the ace is going to ride again in the dome. So this is a match I'm really looking forward to and excited for. I mean, we haven't seen these two guys really lock it up since that aforementioned match. And, Tanahashi is always fantastic in those high pressure, big matches. And, Will's at the top of his game. I mean, that's kind of a dream match. So
yeah, recipe for a great match. So looking forward to that. And we will talk about everything that's been announced for some Dontaku in a little bit here. So moving on, we had our next title match for the never open weight title. The champion Evil, he retains the title against Hiromu Takahashi in 15 minutes and 23 seconds.
Yeah, so, I might be alone here. I really liked this match. This is the second time that these two guys have locked it up in recent times, and I've thoroughly enjoyed both of their matches. You could probably carbon copy a lot of the statements I made about the match they had during the G1 or the New Japan Cup just a couple weeks ago. But yeah, this match was very much in that style. Now, yes, there was shenanigans, there was ref bumps, there was interference from Dick Togo, but it all happened in this extremely small vacuum. They didn't overplay that stuff. They didn't rely on that stuff as a crutch. That was kind of more just auxiliary things that were occurring in the midst of a very good match, as opposed to a really good match was, usually with House of Torture, you'll have either a bad match or a good match, doesn't matter. And then they throw in the House of Torture bullshit and it ruins the match. It literally cuts it to a complete halt and just fucks it up. And then from that point, you're like, man, this is terrible. Instead, this was a little bit different where like the whole time Hiromu's sort of outsmarting Evil. He's sort of outsmarting Dick Togo. Anytime it looks like they are getting the upper hand on him, it's only for very short periods of time. It's not like cutting the entire like momentum of the match off. And these two guys just worked together brilliantly. Plus, they had the tease the entire night that at any moment Hiromu could hit. Everything is Hiromu, I guess you could call the move now, the STO. And if he hits that on Evil, like that might be it. And so that was always in play the entire time. They had some really great near falls at the end. I also loved the play on the story where, again, Hiromu comes out and he's got custom gear and it has the word Evil written all over his gear. Like, I don't know. I'm just bought into this story. And like, I really was pulling for Hiromu. I wanted him to win the Never title. Alas, it did not happen, but this is the best. This is the best. Also, before I move on, Evil is wrestling the way that Evil wrestled before he joined the House of Torture. This is the only guy I've seen him work with where like I'm watching it and I'm like, it's starting to click and dawn on me. I'm like, oh my God, he's not doing the House of Torture Evil shit. He's doing LIJ Evil shit. Like all the setups, all the like pacings and everything. Like this is the way he used to wrestle and like he can still do it. He's just been choosing for the last 2 years not to do it. And now he's doing it with Hiromu. And that's why these matches are coming off much better than anybody thinks they should be at all,
Yeah. I thought it was a good match. I did not like this match as much as I liked the New Japan Cup match, and maybe that has to do
why? Because Hiromu lost?
maybe it's because Hiromu lost. But I did think it had a lot of great near falls. They did do a call back to the finish of the New Japan Cup where Hiromu pushed Togo off and he hit everything was Evil, and he pinned Evil in New Japan Cup that way. But in this match, he pushed Togo off, and he had Evil rolled up, but he didn't get the win here. But there was several great near falls of Hiromu doing a lot of the Hiromu roll up kind of things. And at some points, the ref would be distracted or out of the way, and Hiromu would have Evil pinned several times throughout the match, but just didn't get it when the referee was actually looking. Like you mentioned, Evil did kind of wrestle that kind of LJ style. We saw the whole like the baseball chair spot that he used to do, and a lot of the similar pacings, even like the assisted Magic Killer with Dick Togo at one point in the ring. But Hiromu was able to reverse that. So really good back and forth matchup here. Wasn't quite as high as you were. I like the New Japan Cup match better. I'm not going to complain here, but Evil gets the win, and then which leads to the post-match. We had Tama Tonga walking out to the ring, and it seemed like he was getting ready to challenge Evil before he could. Yujiro Takahashi came down and attacked Tama Tonga from behind, so we had Tama Tonga, Evil, and Dick Togo beating down Tama Tonga. Then Tonga Loa came out and made the save, and GOD, they got the upper hand, and Tama eventually hits Evil for a big gun stun. He grabs the microphone and told Evil that he would get his revenge.
Yeah, at the end of during the post-match, Hiromu, he didn't cut a very long promo, but he was walking past the cameras. He's like, "I'm very persistent, Evil." The thing is, I think, and I'm not counting on this, but if hypothetically they wanted Hiromu to be the guy to dethrone Evil, they've kind of set it up perfectly. They might not go that way, but if let's say in 2 defenses, maybe after the G1 or something like that, they wanted Hiromu to come back and face Evil again, like later in the year, or maybe even at like Wrestle Kingdom. That might be a good place to do this. Maybe you keep the title on Evil throughout the year, and then come January, you set it up for the big Evil Hiromu, trilogy match. And you have Hiromu finally win it and then finally kind of step into those heavyweight ranks. Maybe that's what you do. I would do that way personally. Who knows if they have the patience with the Never title to do something like that, but that seems like a pretty good story to tell.
Yeah, I mean, that is a great story, but to me, I feel there's a lot of smoke to the Tama Tonga fire right now, and I think they could potentially go with Tama Tonga being the one to beat Evil, get some revenge, more revenge on Bullet Club, and really kind of stick it to Jay White by winning the Never title.
Yeah, and that's another really exciting thing that's occurring as well. So, like you said, post-match, everything with Tama Tonga occurs, kind of coming out and making the attack and making the speech and everything like that. So, I don't know. That is possible, and that might be the play. At the same time, I feel like long-term, if they really want to push Tama to a higher level, this isn't a bad place to start, but ultimately, Jay White is the main prize. You know what I mean? And maybe the Never title maybe they should put the title on Tama Tonga and he carry it into some sort of title altercation between himself and Jay White down the road. Maybe pre-G1. I don't know if there's enough time for that, or post-G1. It's hard to say. Or maybe even in the States, that Windy City Riot show, or not Windy City, the Capital Collision show.
Yeah.
That might be a potential spot for them to kind of do a match like that as well. So that's a possibility as well. Got a lot of options on the board, but I think that the crowd was pretty receptive of Tama Tonga when he came out representing Hantai, making, kind of getting some comeuppance on Evil and everything like that. And again, this is kind of the first time in this entire run of House of Torture where they feel like cohesive with Bullet Club too.
Right. And, with the Sumo Hall crowd, we had a good-sized crowd here. And a lot of people, they were oohing and awing and gasping throughout the night. And you did get a lot of oohs where Tama Tonga hit that big gun stun on Evil. So crowd very happy. Tama being a part of Hantai, fighting off the House of Torture, sending Evil packing. So, like I said, a lot of smoke to this fire here with Tama Tonga. And the push of these guys, being Hantai and being babyfaces is working.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that Tama Tonga right now is hot enough to survive a potential bullshit loss to Evil if they did it in the right way? Or do you think that he needs that Never title to solidify him?
I don't know. I feel like you could kind of get away with it if you do have a kind of a schmoz House of Torture finish. But I feel like he's so hot right now, and they've been eating a lot of losses on the multi-man matches. This was the first multi-man match they got the win on this show. I think it would help him to really get a big win over Evil. And then I kind of feel like it kind of shifts things for Jay White, and it kind of, because Jay White's kind of been on the upper hand here in the Bull Club side. Like, they've kicked those guys out. They've been winning the matches. And so I feel like this is kind of more of a piece for the Hantai team to kind of stick it to Jay White by getting this Never title.
Yeah, I think there's two different booking philosophies there. I mean, on the one hand, he does have a lot of sympathy and a lot of support from the fans. And so I don't know necessarily that putting the title on him is needed, especially since, the conflict between him and Jay White is very personal, and it doesn't necessarily revolve around, titles and that sort of thing. At the same time, you might want to go the opposite route. Instead of having him take losses to garner support and garner sympathy, you might want to start to build the swell of support by giving him key victories and putting a belt on him, especially since I don't think Tama Tonga's, in fact, I know he's never had a singles title win in New Japan before, and maybe that would give him even more vocal support and make him seem as a credible threat to, a top star like Jay White. So hard to say. I honestly think they could go either way. And that's kind of the interesting thing here. I don't think he necessarily does actually need the title win.
Yeah, I think they could get away, like I said, if they did a smosh finish and it's a screw job, and you do build sympathy up that way. I'm just thinking, for me, if I had the book, I would put the belt on him. I would try and make him as big as possible. So when we do get that eventual Jay White match, it's not like main event Jay kind of facing a mid-card Tama Tonga. It's a upper mid-card burgeoning main event Tama Tonga facing a main event Jay White, and we're going to do some big business here.
Another thing too, though, to keep into consideration, G1 is around the corner. I think it's a lock that Tama's going to be in there. He's not this time going to be like the trial guy who's getting an alternate space that could be potentially knocked out next year. Like, I think he is a solidified guy after last year's performance and his defection from Bullet Club. And, you know, oftentimes the guy that's kind of carrying the Never title gets booked pretty haphazardly.
Yeah.
You know, during that, he might want to go into that G1 without that without the encumberment of the title. And maybe they should give him, I'm not saying like a Jeff Cobb type push necessarily, but, you know, he probably needs like at least 6, maybe, I know it sounds crazy, maybe 7 wins in there to be seen as a real guy coming out of that tournament, especially when it comes to Jay.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing him go 7-2. Yeah, maybe the 6-3.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking they're adding guys into the tournament.
Gotcha. So
yeah, no, like if it were like 9 guys, if there's 9 matches, like 6-3, or if they add guys like maybe like 7-4, I don't know.
Yeah. We have a lot of questions here on this matchup. First, Les Commission 7252 says, similar to the way Ospreay went through in 2019, do you guys believe in Hiromu to be in this year's G1 tournament? Hiromu has faced Ishii, Kenta, Suzuki, Shingo, and Evil, all heavyweights. That would also mean he'd be a replacement for Sonata in the G1 for LIJ and a new name placed in this year's tournament.
Yeah, that's a tough question. We've gotten this question from friends of ours personally on, you know, just in general discussion. And I do have a tough time with that, mainly because normally if a junior is going to go into the G1, historically they don't do so good in the G1 really, except for like Prince Devitt is like the one guy I can think of that's done exceptionally well. Most of the guys that have come out of the junior division and competed in the G1 haven't done super hot. And the other thing too is in most of those cases, they've usually kind of mopped the super juniors in the same year that they compete, you know? So like if they're seen as a credible enough threat to face heavyweights, they need to be like destroying the juniors at the same time. Out of the last 5 years that he's been in super juniors, he's won like 4 of them, I think. Is that correct?
Something like that. Sounds about right, yeah.
Or it's 3 out of 4. It's something crazy like that. And he was the most recent winner. So it's like, okay, he's going to have to do really, really, really well in this year's Super Juniors, which I don't think anyone's doubting that he will. But I also kind of feel like maybe this year shouldn't be his year because we've told that same story with Hiromu going to the finals and, you know, either winning or losing and then coming back and winning the junior title year after year after year. And they need something kind of fresh and new and to build somebody else other than him. So, I mean, best case, let's say if he does compete in the G1, best case scenario, I guess would be he ties the point leaders but gets knocked out by elimination through a tiebreaker and doesn't make the finals, but he's still like one of the tip top like point earners in the Super Juniors. But then he gets to the G1. How well is Hiromu with his height going to actually do in this company? I mean, I can see him, I don't know. I'm just guessing here, Jeremy. You correct me if I'm wrong. Best case scenario, he goes 500 and maybe gets a big win over, like, let's say an Evil or someone like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say he would probably go like, if it's a normal size, like 4 and 5.
Yeah, 4 and 5. I said 500 because I was thinking even number. I'm terrible with this stuff. But yeah, that's basically what I'm saying when I say 500, like okay. 4 and 5 or 5 and 4. 5 and 4 would be like the absolute highest he could possibly do. But I mean, when you look at the history of the guys that there've been prior to this 6 juniors who have ever competed: Takaiwa, Liger, Ibushi,
Ospreay,
Fergal Devitt, and then who's the 6th guy? Did I say Ibushi?
Yeah. And Shingo moved up before he officially entered.
Minoru Tanaka.
That's right. Heat.
Yeah, Minoru Tanaka is the other guy. And none of them have done exceptionally well. And the only ones out of them that have ever truly transitioned over to heavyweight were Ibushi and Ospreay, and that was a very long and arduous process. They're all much bigger framed and taller than Hiromu is. You look at someone that's kind of more contemporary to Hiromu, which would be like, say, Liger. The thing that always held Liger back was his height. He just didn't have the frame to be a heavyweight. They never booked him to be that way because he just wasn't tall enough. And I hopefully times have changed in New Japan, but the more things change, the more they stay the same. And like, I know a lot of people want him to kind of make that full-fledged jump. I think that what I posed, him going never first and going that route to potentially jump, is the most likely scenario, and even that's a little far-fetched. I mean, they didn't do it for Kushida. I don't know if they'll do it for Hiromu. Hopefully his star power could carry him, but I think it's something a lot of people are hoping for, because what other stories are there for him at junior? There's not many.
Yeah, that's something we've been talking about in the build-up to this Never match a while. It could have been a good option for him to win the Never title, because there is not much more stories to tell with him in the junior division. I'm not as big as, on his height kind of thing. I don't feel like his height, he's that short compared to some other people. Obviously, guys like Okada kind of tower over him, but I feel like some other guys, like I don't think he's that much shorter than like Evil. And I do feel like there are times when Hiromu kind of packs on some size and does look he's a little bit thicker at certain points of the year than he is maybe during like Super Junior or something like that. And so I do think it could be a realistic transition at some point. I think the biggest thing is going to be who are they bringing over for the G1. The spots are already tight right now, and then with the potential rumors of them getting work visas and bringing other people over and bringing some new heavyweights into the game, do you want to push somebody out for Hiromu, or are you just leaving new spots open for new guys?
Yeah, and I mean, if they're bringing over outsiders in any capacity, plus some of the guys they've elevated over the past couple of years, it's such a tight field. That's the other hard part with it. Would I be opposed to it from just a pure entertainment standpoint? Absolutely not. I think Hiromu's fantastic. One of my favorite guys. And yeah, there'd be so many fresh matchups that we'd get with him. I mean, we saw what when they put Ospreay in the G1 the first year, and then remember like when they brought in Shingo and Mox. I mean, anytime you get a new guy, it just really livens things up and makes for interesting matchups. But at the same time, you have to think about the business side of it, and like, is that going to be best for his character long term? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Next question here from Dom Homie 101. Is it me, or did Evil versus Hiromu over-deliver?
Like I said, I did think it over-delivered. I do agree with you, Jeremy. I thought that the KOPW or the New Japan Cup match was better than this. But I think a lot of what people didn't like about it was there was more Dick Togo involvement in this match than the previous one. And I think that because so much of that has happened this year, it's left a bad taste in people's mouth anytime it happens. For me, I kind of try to block that stuff out and just judge it on its own merit. And the truth is, comparatively speaking, this was still very light on the heavy-handed cheating as opposed to a lot of Evil's other matches throughout the year. I thought they did over-deliver. I liked this better than the first singles match they had a couple years ago still. So, yeah, I thought it was good. And was it a clean win by Evil? No, but for a guy that cheats as much as he does, this is the closest thing you could probably hope for to a clean win, because he did get the STO out of nowhere and get the clean visual 1, 2, 3. And they still made Hiromu look very, strong in losing. So, yeah, I thought it was a good match. I wouldn't it's not going to win match of the month or anything, but I liked it a lot. So
what you're saying is you're like Fred Rosser and you block the hate when Dick Togo comes out there.
No, I accept the hate. I'm like Kane.
You embrace the hate?
I embrace the hate.
Oh, man, yeah. In my opinion, I didn't think it over-delivered, but, I mean, still a good matchup. So a good even match, I guess you can say that is an over-delivery, because we haven't gotten a ton of those since he's been in House of Torture. Next question here from Viking Pain. It looks like Tama is about to get the biggest push of his career with his upcoming feud with Evil and the Never title. I'm actually excited for it. I enjoyed his work in the G1 last year, and surprisingly, I'm starting to like GD as babyfaces too. Thoughts? I think we've kind of given our thoughts on that.
We've given our thoughts on it. Yeah, I mean, they're giving them a really good push. The crowds are taking to them, and it's very exciting. And I'm excited to see what new routes they go with this group, whether that be singles or tags or a combination of both. They've got a lot of options in front of them.
Yeah. Wiz Factor asks, he says, in light of Tama Tonga wearing the Hantai shirt and giving Evil some fiery words before their title match at Dontaku, when was the last time Hantai had this much bad boy energy in their group?
I don't know. I can't think of I don't know. When was the last time it really felt like they had I don't know.
I feel since we've been doing this show, I don't really feel like they've had this kind of edge or anybody in the group that's kind of like this kind of bad boy persona or this kind of, I don't know.
I mean, it's not quite the same thing, but we did wonder whether this group could form their own unit or not, whether they're going to be part of Hantai. I am still wondering if down the road, GOD doesn't still become their own kind of subunit within Hantai, similar to say the Blue Justice Army when Nagata had his group. They were still part of Sekigun, but they were also, part of his group as well. And that kind of feels somewhat similar to this. I mean, that was pre New Japan Dad Nagata, where he was still seen as a title challenger threat. He was wrestling the likes of Nakamura and Tanahashi and all the guys at the top and sort of still kind of a badass. And I don't know, that's the only thing I can think of in the past, 15 years that kind of reminds me of this a little bit.
Nice. Let's move on now to the tag team title match. The IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team titles are on the line. The United Empire, Great Okan and Jeff Cobb, they defeated the champs Bishamon, Hiroki Goto, and Yoshihashi 60 minutes and 5 seconds to become the new IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team champions.
Yeah, I thought this match was really good. It wasn't unlike many of the matches that we saw during, say, the World Tag League, especially with this tandem in the past. But the match was very, very good. I thought it was as clean a victory as you could hope for heels like United Empire. They looked extremely dominant. There was a new variation of what's the move that Great Okan does? Is it the Eliminator?
Yes, the Eliminator.
Yeah, he did a new version of the Eliminator, which had a pump handle attached to it, which I think I actually like better than the original variation. I'm kind of hoping maybe he adopts that as the final form of the move because I thought it looked really good. But they saw it, they destroyed, they cut, they cut the Chaos Tag Team off and just made them kind of ineffective all throughout the match. And ultimately, the dominance of both those guys, especially Jeff Cobb, it was just too much for them to overcome. They took the tag titles, and it's a new era. It's the United Empire era.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this tag team match here. I thought it was really good, and I thought they did some really great near falls. And there's a sequence here towards the end where Yoshihashi, he hits a Canadian Destroyer on Jeff Cobb. Goto comes in. They hit the Shoto, which is their tag team finishing move. And they had me there. I'm like, oh, crap. Bishamon just beat these guys. 1, 2. Great Okan comes in and makes a save. And that near fall was so hot there. I think a lot of people had thought that Bishamon was going to win there. And then United Empire fight back. And then they hit their Imperial Drop combination onto Yoshihashi. And then Cobb's able to hit the Tour of the Islands. And they get the big win here. So overall, thought there was a lot of great near falls in this matchup. And like you mentioned, the meat of the match, there was a lot of heat on Yoshihashi, them kind of beating him down, cutting Goto off until Goto could finally kind of come back in there and even things up. But even then, they still kind of overwhelmed the Chaos team. And there was that last shimmer of hope there towards the end with the Shoto. but overall it was United Empire dominating, and I thought this was a really good tag team match.
I liked reading the translations of the post-match promo that Great-O-Khan did, because apparently one of his like catchphrases, he tells everybody like, "We are the United Empire, hail us," and it reminds me of like "acknowledge me," but it's "hail us." So, that's pretty raw. But during the post-match backstage comments, as they were kind of celebrating, it was cool where like Jeff Cobb pretty much was like, "Yo, we'll fuck up any team anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter who they are." And he named like every team like in New Japan. And then he also was like, "I heard FTR, they're talking shit, talking about they'll come take these titles. We'll fight them. We'll fight the Briscoes. We'll fight the Young Bucks. Doesn't matter who they are. They can come here. They can fight us." And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm down with this. But instead we got Fale and Chase Owens walking up on them. And I was like, no, that's not, that's not what you said. You invoked the name of the Young Bucks and instead Chase Owens showed up. What the fuck? But the Bull Club team of Chase Owens and Fale basically said that they want a shot, and then Bishamon came out and they're like, "No, forget these losers. They're behind the line. Face us." And they're like, "Dude, you just lost." They're like, "Yeah, and even in losing, we're still ahead of you in the trajectory of the tag team division." It pretty much basically created a three-way situation. So if anyone's wondering about the Dontaku announced card, that's how we've arrived at a three-way situation for the tag titles.
Gotcha. We did have a question here from MJSPR. Says, what tag team made the most out of the pandemic? Dangerous Techers or Bishamon?
I mean, is Goto getting New Japan Cup wins and world title challenges? Is Yoshihashi the KOPW champion? You tell me.
Well, yeah, the way I was going to say is actually, I think as a team, I could be lean more towards Bishamon as a team making the most out of the pandemic, where I felt like Sabre and Taichi made more out of their singles runs during the pandemic. Even though Dangerous Tickers, obviously, they were our tag team of the year last year, and obviously they kind of really did carry the tag team division a lot throughout the pandemic era. There was still a lot of shine on them as singles. You had Bishamon with Ishii in that great Never six-man run, elevating those titles, which then transitioned into Goto and Yoshihashi getting their tag run. So I feel like all four guys did great work in the pandemic, but I feel like the pandemic really solidified Goto and Yoshihashi as a team, whereas Sabre and Taichi really raised their stakes in the singles ranking during the pandemic.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was just being facetious. Honestly, I mean, if you really think about it, all four guys are coming from different starting points. Look at where Goto and Yoshihashi were pre-pandemic and then where they ended up. I mean, they were kind of like in that area of the company where like they kind of were lower mid-card. And then through, like you said, the six-man tag run, they got to the point where they were viable tag team champions and kind of became like mid-carders.
Yeah.
Verging on the upper mid-card guys. Whereas like Zach and Sabre, they weren't quite upper mid-card. They were maybe Zach was, but they were definitely firmly lower than world tag team status, and they used their opportunity to take that tag team, ride that to greater success. And now they're both upper mid-card. And Zach's kind of verging on just outside the big six. So yeah, I think they all elevated themselves in different respects. Like you mentioned, I just think they started at different points altogether.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense there. Now let's talk about our semi-main event here. We have the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title on the line. The champion, El Desperado, defends and retains the title against Show 20 minutes and 33 seconds.
Yes, if you told me that I would like a House of Torture Evil match more than a House of Torture Show match on the same card, I'd probably say that was an unlikely bet, but that's exactly what happened here. Not a fan of this match.
Yeah, you had a Show jumping Desperado during the entranceway and them kind of brawling throughout the match. Then also just a lot of the Show interference style and breaking the rules style. Several moments of pushing the ref down, using weapons right in front of the referee. It's just really difficult to really enjoy these matches and to get into these style of matches that Show is working here. He's doing the goofy face sell jobs now, and he takes these bumps and he's making the most goofiest faces, and it's just so hard to buy into him.
Yeah, man, the pacing of the matches is not, to my liking. It's just so heavy on the cheating, so heavy on the outside, just, I wouldn't say interference because there wasn't a lot of interference, but just reliance on props, reliance on the brawling, reliance on the weapon shots and everything like that, the ref bumps and all that stuff. And it's just like the heat segments are just so, I understand like you're a bad guy and you want people to dislike you and stuff, but like there is a breakdown between, working in a heel manner to where people don't want to watch you and then working in a heel manner to where they want to see you lose. And those are two totally different things. Like I'm apathetic to Show losing at this point. I don't care whether Show wins or loses. I don't want to see Show compete on any level, which is so crazy because I thought he was literally like, there was a point where like I would be on the show and like hyperbole, like I would be speaking in a hyperbolic sense, but I'd be like, dude, he could be an IWGP champion one day.
Yeah.
Because that's how good he is.
We call that man Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, he's Shawn Michaels. So, and then the other thing too is like, obviously we recognize how good Desperado is, but he's a far cry from what I like in the junior style. There are things I like about him. I think, and don't get me wrong, I think he's very good. But I mean, when you compare him to the names that have kind of been prominent placeholders in the junior division over the past, like, let's say 8 years, your Kushidas, your Ricochets, your Will Ospreys, your Hiromu Takahashis, your Dragon Lees. I don't know if you kind of compare him to those names and you might see exactly what I'm kind of getting at. He's not really wrestling that like high risk, high octane, very wild style of wrestling. And he also doesn't really wrestle to that like upper level of technical style wrestling that I enjoy out of like say Kushida and stuff like that. So like I think he's very good, but I don't think Desperado is truly great in the sense of those guys. And he is the like standard bearer of the division, which to me kind of denotes that the division's at a down period. And you would hope that him wrestling a guy like Show would be an elevation for both guys, but it's not. It's actually a de-elevation and makes both of them kind of come down to a lower level, which is not what I want to see out of the junior title, especially when it's on a major Sumo Hall show and in the semi-main event spot here. I thought this was the biggest disappointment of the entire night, honestly.
Yeah, and I know you said you don't care whether Show wins or loses, but I'm in a fact where I just don't want to see him. Like I did not want to see him win this match, and there was like two near submissions here with the snake bite submission, where I thought potentially maybe they would have changed the title here. So I'm glad that Desperado retained because I do not want to see more Show junior title matches. I'm sure in the future he's going to eventually challenge for title again. I'm sure at some point he's going to win the title and he's going to be in Super Juniors, but I don't want to see him in a big spot like this, semi-main event on a card like this, which has been pretty entertainable from the opening to this point and kind of being a black eye on this card.
Yeah. I don't have much. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't have much more to add to it. I guess I am glad in a certain sense that Desperado won here. At the same time, I liked what they were teasing earlier in the year, the idea of him facing outsiders and doing fresh new things, and instead he's fighting Show. And not a version of Show that I want to see wrestle anyways. So, all around this was a very disappointing affair.
Yeah. So then post-match, we had the Bone Soldier Taiji Ishimori walks the ring and he challenges Desperado for the junior title. He said, who's your next challenger? Are you going to challenge somebody outside the company or are you going to, challenge somebody else? He's like, I think you should challenge me. But then before, Desperado could respond to Ishimori, the lights cut off and comes back on, and the former All Japan Junior Heavyweight Champion, Francisco Akira, appears in the ring, opens up his jacket. He's wearing a United Empire shirt, and he said that he's going to be in Best of the Super Junior, and he walks away. So this is obviously the big debut for Will Ospreay's protege. We've seen the videos. We talked about them, the videos of his protege coming in and burning the junior division. So like we all assumed, it is Francisco Akira. He's going to be in Best of the Super Juniors. He walks away after that, and then Desperado then accepts Ishimori's challenge.
Yeah, so, that was kind of interesting. Francesco Akira, his appearance, they built it up with a few video packages. I thought we talked the other week about it. Bucciati is the name, which means to burn. They showed that only one time that I can recall on the actual. Well, it was during that Cork and Hall show, so who knows? They might have been showing it on the other house shows, but maybe not. Who knows what kind of setups they had for those shows? So there was a slight build to it, but then he shows up, and the crowd seemed kind of sort of befuddled. There was a slight response, but there wasn't it wasn't the same kind of response as I don't know if you recall when Ishimori himself showed up as Bone Soldier. I think people really responded to that. It seemed like there was a lot more establishment of him in the domestic region than there maybe is of Akira Francesco, or what's his name?
Francisco Akira,
yeah. But his whole thing, he kind of cut a short speech and said I'm gonna fight you guys in the Super Juniors. See ya. And it's that's not till May. So it's all right, cool. See ya.
Yeah, he kind of looked dumb. It's why don't you challenge for the title?
Yeah, you could have challenged for the title. What are you doing? But then, and then it's all right, well, and the whole thing with Ishimori, he's are you going to fight me or are you going to fight outsiders? And then an outsider shows up, and then the outsider doesn't want to fight, and then he leaves. And so, I guess it's cool that we're getting Francesco Akira in the Super Juniors. That's exciting, and that's fresh and new. But then before that, we're having to get Ishimori and Desperado again, which, granted, I did like their previous matches, I guess, but I also don't think I was ever blown away by any of those matches. And generally speaking, I found Ishimori to be kind of repetitive and dull in that position at the top of the division. I don't know about you.
Yeah, again, I think it really just depends on who he's facing and how motivated he is on that night. But yeah, Desperado, Ishimori, I think I like that better than Desperado's show. But again, I'm not sure how invested I am in that, especially with Super Juniors right around the corner and knowing that Desperado's probably going to be the champion going into that anyway. So not really invested in Ishimori challenging. So we'll see what happens.
But that's what we're getting.
Yeah. So I had some questions here. So Viking Pain says, All Japan Pro Wrestling put a lot of time and stock in building up Francisco Akira, and he even won their junior tournament and junior title last year too. But now with him jumping ship to New Japan Pro Wrestling, wouldn't that look bad for New Japan and harm any possible collaboration?
Yeah, I don't think New Japan is trying to collaborate with All Japan, honestly.
Yeah, they're doing that Cork and Hall 60th anniversary thing, but I don't think they're trying to make a long-term partnership with All Japan. New Japan, they're doing what they need to do right now to try and make up for lost revenue during the pandemic years. And we've seen over the years, especially in the junior division, guys who kind of get poached or taken. We've seen guys from DDT and Dragon Gate, Ibushi and Ricochet and guys like that, they come over into the Super Juniors and eventually just become a part of New Japan. And that's something that New Japan's doing for a while. They're top dogs. They're the top company in Japan. They're going to do what they need to do to increase their division and try to make money and make their product exciting. I don't think they can really worry about All Japan.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, and I mentioned this on the show a few weeks ago or maybe last week, it is different rules for Gaijin talent jumping ship than it is for domestic dojo race talent. It's just not the same thing.
Right. Hawaiian Punch BV says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how awkward is Francisco Akira's debut? Do you think Ospreay should have showed up and hyped his debut up, or is seeing Ospreay 3 times in one night going to be too much for the crowd?
I don't know if they should have even done it here if this is the way it was going to be. I mean, they could have probably benefited from him potentially continuing to build up his debut the same way they did with Moxley with the Switchblade, or what's his?
Death Rider.
Yeah, those Death Rider vignettes were really good, and they built for a long time. And we only got the one, and then he just kind of is there, which kind of makes me question how invested New Japan is in him. At the same time, they don't typically give anything like that to someone that they don't have some level of investment. But the whole thing was a little wonky. Maybe they should have had him get physical in some way or do something that was a little more impactful. The crowd just kind of seemed befuddled, and then he was there and then he was out. Yeah, the whole thing was awkward, but I do think it would have been too much to have Ospreay show up a third time on the night. That probably would have been overkill.
Yeah, I agree. They probably should have teased out his coming a little bit more, because to me, this is very similar to what we've seen in the past where you had Ishimori. There were several Bone Soldiers. There's coming video. Then he debuted, did a big attack, and then I'm in Super Juniors. Same thing with El Phantasma. We got several ELP videos, makes a debut, makes an attack, and then he's in Super Juniors, he's doing tag stuff, and you're on your way. So here, again, we got this one promo video, and then he just shows up. There was no physical attack. Super Juniors is still a month away. The champion was right there. He could have challenged the champion. So it seems like it's just seemed a little bit disjointed to what they've done in the past with previous juniors that they've brought in. But I am excited about seeing him in the tournament, and they probably should have waited until Dontaku for him to show up.
Yeah.
Dom Hobie 101, thoughts on the debut of Francisco Akira? Who's this guy, and is he any good?
He's very good. He, like the other commenters mentioned, is he's a talent from Italy, and, kind of made his bones in the UK. He's worked prominently here in Japan over the last few years, primarily in All Japan, and he was their junior heavyweight world champion. He also won their equivalent to the best of the Super Juniors last year, and his work is pretty accessible. It's out there, so if you want to see him, a Google search is out there. He's also been working recently in Rev Pro. We mentioned the match with Gabriel Kidd, which was outstanding. He also has other work that's very, very good. So, I mean, he's very good. And I think he's going to be a good fit for the United Empire.
Yeah, so right now I've only seen one Francisco Akira match, and that was the Gabriel Kidd match from Rev Pro earlier this year, and that match was freaking awesome. So if we're going to get more of that in New Japan Junior Division, I'm all in on this guy. He did incredible in that match, and I'm looking forward to seeing him mix it up. It's some fresh blood, and getting in that Super Juniors and mixing it up with the Junior Division.
Underdog Fantasy is the fastest growing fantasy app and easiest place to play fantasy sports. Play season-long best ball, fantasy drafts where you only focus on the most fun part of fantasy, drafting your team. Just jump on UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app, draft your team, and that's it. Underdog handles the rest for you. No waivers, trades, or setting your lineups each week. And if drafts aren't your thing, they also have a pick'em game where you can win 20 times your money in a single night. Use promo code RADIO, and Underdog will double your first deposit when you sign up with up to $100 in bonus cash. Deposit $100, get $100 free. That's promo code RADIO. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, let's move on to the main event of the show here, the IWGP World Heavyweight title match. The champion, Kazuchika Okada, retains and defeats the New Japan Cup winner, Zack Sabre Jr., 28 minutes and 25 seconds.
Yeah, I love this match. Like, I really, really do. I think it would be easy for me to say that this is, in my opinion, the pinnacle of Okada and Zack Sabre Jr. matches. One of the absolute best matches in New Japan this year. Thereby, anytime you say that a match in New Japan is one of their best, it means it's one of the best in the world, period. And, I don't know necessarily if I would go as far as to say like this was better than like, say, Osprey Okada from this year, or maybe some of the other top end Zach matches from the New Japan Cup, because those seem to be like the highest rated stuff from this year. But this is right in that same league, and it might not be far off, but the way they wrestled this match, the stories that it told, the way it just cascaded and flowed, this was just like art, honestly. Like, this was some of the highest levels of art when it comes to pro wrestling and storytelling. And, there was never a dull moment. These guys just wrestled at like a breakneck pace and really put it all out on the line there. And like, I know this sounds like kind of crazy, but like, I think that they're continuing to like move forward the art of professional wrestling, like even still. And this was just another example of that. I mean, Okada is just incredible. Zach's incredible. And I think when these two guys wrestle, it's magic. And they went out there and they knocked it out of the park again.
Yeah, I thought this was a great matchup, great main event. Love the story. Zach focusing a lot of his attack on the Rainmaker arm of Okada. So we're seeing several strikes to that arm, several submissions to that arm. Thought they did great work there. And Sabre, being submission master, I love the spot where he was kind of like very easily able to get out of the money clip at one point and able to transition into another submission. And like I said, I just thought it was so well wrestled, and just the story they told of of Sabre getting Okada kind of trapped in these different holes and Okada having to fight back, and one of his powerful weapons are being worked on, and had that arm. He would throw forearms, he would sell it, he would try and throw the Rainmaker, and it would be difficult. So thought Zach did a great job there of kind of pinpointing something and kind of breaking down Okada. Saw a lot of great near falls. There was a great spot of Okada hitting this tombstone pile driver on the floor, which was great, which led to a spinning tombstone in the ring. I bit for the Zach driver near fall, because that move has been pretty protected, and I know a few people have kicked out of it, but I still bit on it because not many people do kick out of it. And so that was a great near fall there. We got all the great like European clutch style near falls in the match as well. Then towards the end, Okada was finally able to catch him with the landslide. It's the Rainmaker, and retains the championship.
Yeah, one of the hallmarks of their feud, like you mentioned, has been Zach attacking the arm to try and neutralize the Rainmaker threat. At the same time, there's always kind of been two key things that happen, and they continue to play out here in this match. But as compared to, say, the match from 4 years, it was a lot more advanced. So one thing, obviously, is with the counter wrestling style of Zach, he always is able to kind of put Okada in precarious positions and really have very inventive counters to a lot of the offensive moves that Okada comes up with. And so that sort of really kind of came into play here, but even more so than ever before. I mean, this was the most, maybe the most in a long time that I can recall seeing the offense of Okada just countered. And, oftentimes when someone is very familiar with Okada, they might catch one of his moves and have a defense for it on, like, say, one occasion, but then the very next time that Okada goes for it in the match, he gets it. You know what I mean? In this case, it took Okada maybe sometimes 2 to 3 attempts to actually pull off his moves. And what I noticed was that sometimes it would be Zach actually catching the counter and then Okada needing to alter that counter and counter out of it to modify and actually pull off some of his big offense, like his drop kick, like the neck breaker, like everything, that we kind of come to expect. So there was like a very inventive sort of just different style and pace to this match. Like Zach caught more out of Okada than he ever has in any of their previous encounters. And then at the same time, another thing that always occurs in their matches is the Yave styling of Okada, and how that's kind of a different art and style of submission wrestling that Okada knows, and he does he does utilize it in his matches, but to a much lesser degree than in the matches with Zach, where Zach is doing a lot of submission style wrestling. Like we're seeing Okada being forced to kind of play his Yave hand, and that kind of came into play in this match as well. So I mean, seeing these guys like mix it up on the mat and like just go like hold for hold, minute for minute. It's funny because like I haven't talked about it on the show, but you always hear people talk about like, oh, in the 70s, Briscoe and Dory Funk Jr., they had these classics, but like I've seen the matches between Dory Funk Jr. and Jack Briscoe, and like I don't even think that they're standouts for the 70s realistically. I think like their reputation of being these incredible, technical style mat classics kind of precede, like they're much more emboldened than the reality of the matches on tape that actually exist. But like Okada and like Zach smoke that shit. Like smoke it. And I mean, Zach is like probably the absolute best pro wrestling style technical wrestler that's out there. And then you match him up with Okada, who's probably the most all around. He's probably the greatest all around pro wrestler in wrestling today, especially on the main event level, style level. And anytime they're in the ring together, it's just blow away. Another thing I liked about the match, less than 30 minutes. So, I mean, they kept it on the shorter side. And the final thing at the end of the match where they're going counter for counter, that's very typical of an Okada finish. But, it seemed like only since he's come back into the IWGP title picture have we started to see those very elaborate style finishes. Kind of got away from that a bit when he was sort of on the undercard, and now that he's back at the main event, we're kind of seeing that play out again, which is something I love. And this one was really elaborate. It was going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then Zach hit him with that spinning counter DDT off the turnbuckle, and then kind of transitioned that into what looked like to be a Zach driver, and it was like, oh fuck, he got him. And right when he has him up, it just turns the opposite way. The momentum just goes the opposite way, and like Okada has him, and it's the landslide. And you're like, oh fuck, no! And like it really, really looked like Zach was going to win this match. And like I know on here we were a little speculative, but I think we were both pretty firm that Okada's probably winning. But like in the week prior to this match, everyone, all the diehard like real fanboys, at least in the West, like in these like different chats and on message boards and Discord servers, they all started talking themselves into really believing that like Zach was gonna win the match. So much so that like I was on a Reddit, I saw a Reddit poll, and I think like 60-something% of the people that were polled thought like Zach was winning. So I was like, oh fuck, like someone knows something. Like Zach's he might win this shit and pull it out. But like alas, that was not to be. He was devastated again. Post-match, he did say he was like the last person to win the New Japan Cup and not win the title was me 4 years ago. And I've outdone myself.
Yeah, and another story element that I liked is they did include a throwback to the spot that he used to beat Shingo in the New Japan Cup, that rear naked choke that he used to pass out Shingo. So that was a near submission towards the end of the match there. So building up on things he did in New Japan Cup to potentially think that he would win the same way here also was a good touch also.
Well, during the post-match too, he was like, I should have tried to submit him, and that was my undoing. Like I should have used Techers, but I went for an impact move and I tried to use the Zach driver, and that's what caught me. And he was like, and I knew I shouldn't have gone for it because I didn't get everything on that spinning DDT anyways. He's like, if I'd really landed that, and if you recall, like that DDT was a little sloppy. He worked that into his promo. He's like, if I'd gotten everything on the DDT, maybe I could have landed that and won. But I knew I didn't get everything on that, and I let the moment get the best of me, basically. So I'm like, man, that's some good shit. Like that's the stuff in New Japan that is just so awesome. This match was just phenomenal. If you haven't seen it, go out of your way to watch it. I mean, is it possible that something else this month could be better? The month isn't over and we've still got Windy City Riot coming up, so possible, but that's going to be a tall order. This match was outstanding, and I think it's probably the lead contender for match of the month for sure.
Where are you, Snowflakes?
I'm 4 3/4 on this one.
Nice. I'm 4.5.
Yeah, I could see that, but I was just enthralled the whole time. Like this was, people talk about like perfect wrestling matches, and to me, this was nearly a perfect wrestling match. The only thing that could have like maybe elevated it to that next level was like if they'd gone into even a higher gear, like an Omega Okada type level gear. But in terms of just like the actual wrestling, I mean, I can't. It was perfect. It was a perfect match. They told an incredible story, and like I love every time these guys like mix it up, and I think that this was the best one they've done yet. So both these guys are
both these guys.
Yeah, they're knocking it out of the park this year, and like I hope that we see them again in the G1 this year.
Yeah, definitely. After the match, we had Okada challenging Tetsuya Naito. He said he beat Naito earlier in the year, but then he lost to Naito in the cup, so he wanted a rubber match, and he was waiting. Naito didn't show up, so he was like, oh, maybe Naito went home, but then eventually Naito did come out and accept the challenge. The match is set for May 1st at Wrestling Dontaku. A lot of questions here on this one. So first, Viking Pain says, is Zack Sabre Jr. on the path of becoming the new Goto?
I could see how you could say that, but the thing is, I don't know. I do judge domestic talent and Gaijin talent as two totally different things. Like if Zack had come through that dojo system and they gave him title shot after title shot after title, I mean, how many title shots did Goto get? Like 8 or something like that?
Yeah.
Something crazy. And he never won. I mean, Zack's had like 2 in 4 years. And also, Zack is believable that he could at any point beat anybody and is a threat in any position and can be heated up at any time. Goto's at the point where like he can't be heated up. Really,
right.
Realistically, like he can't be heated up. Like that time's passed. He's a great hand. He's a really good upper mid card guy, but like I don't think Zack's anywhere in danger of being viewed that way, at least not right now.
Right, yeah, the ship has sailed with Hiroki Goto, and if you're thinking about stocks, like I still think like there's still room to grow for Zack's stock to go up. I don't think Goto's going to get any higher. Like Goto's only going to go down from here. Like I think he's tag team roles are great for him. You want to throw him in a never title match. You want to get him back in the 6-man. I think that's kind of a good spot for him. I have a hard time seeing Goto get back to world title challenger status. Next question here from Dom Holy 11. Thoughts on minor fan backlash over ZSJ not winning the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship? In my opinion, ZSJ is a top-notch wrestler, but he's not World Heavyweight Champion type of guy in Japan.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where it's like they did such a great job heating him up, and also this is the second time they've told the story. This in particular, this I don't know what the word I'm looking for exactly is, but this point here of contention where they heated him up, they put him in the spot, and he didn't win again is the very reason why I didn't choose him to win the New Japan Cup, because I was thinking someone like a Jeff Cobb or Great O'Khan made more sense from like they could really use the elevation and they wouldn't be hurt so bad by taking that loss since it's their first title shot ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the same time, I didn't count on the company doing such a phenomenal job heating up Zack Sabre Jr. throughout this tournament and not putting it all on them. He also did an incredible job just knocking it out of the park night after night, match after match, and just making himself into this killer and really credible, title challenger. At the same time, though, business is business. And like, do I think Zack could hypothetically be a world champion caliber guy? I do. I don't totally agree with Dom Homie 101's statement there at the end. But today, right now, is he a guy that can headline the Fukuoka Dome as the heavyweight champion? No. From that standpoint, he shouldn't have been winning the title. And so if you are upset, you do need to look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, okay, what would I have rather, if I'm a Zack Sabre Jr. fan, what would I rather have had happen? Would I rather them have not given him this opportunity and not gotten the shot, not gotten the main event, and just kind of been where he was all along, maybe lost to, say, like Ospreay earlier in the tournament, and that be the end of his run? And then hopefully they decide to like heat him up in a G1 or some other like title program later on, maybe this year, maybe the next year, maybe never, who knows? Or would I prefer for him to have gotten the shot, elevated his stock, shown what he can do against the best guy in the world, and really kind of raised eyebrows in the process? Because at the end of the day, if you're being honest with yourself, there's no way he was going to win and headline the Fukuoka Dome on a 1 month notice. Business-wise, that just doesn't make sense. So you got two options there. Either he gets this spot and loses, or he doesn't get the spot at all, and you hope that he gets another chance down the road. Which is it going to be? Because he's not headlining Fukuoka Dome. It doesn't matter how much you want it to be the case. This company is too big and too established and has too lofty goals to take a chance on him right now to do that. It's just not feasible.
Right. And like we've been saying for a while now, New Japan, they're all about catching up from the pandemic. They need to make money. They need to get profits back up. And the last time they're most profitable, Kazuchika Okada was the champion. So they put the belt back on Okada. This is the big 50th year anniversary. Like we've been saying, it makes a ton of business sense to keep the belt on Okada all year long. He's a draw. He does great business. They need to make up money. They're doing all these big dome shows throughout the year. They're doing all these big tournaments, these international shows. You put the face of the company, you put all of the steam behind Okada. That's going to drive revenue. That's going to bring profit. That's going to help the business get back into a good place. And I know a lot of times people, we saw this in the last title run, people, they get kind of tired of the Okada title run. He wins too much, yada, yada, yada. But if you look at the business side, just strictly the business and making money, like Okada is the ace. He's the one that helps gets them the profit they need to be able to run all these big shows. So from a business sense, like you mentioned, it makes a ton of sense on keeping the championship on Okada. And like we said, I see him holding the title through Wrestle Kingdom. I think he's the face of this 50th year anniversary. I can see him winning our Wrestler of the Year poll at the end of the year because he's having banger title matches. He's the face of the promotion this year. And I just think this is Okada's year. And he's been out of the limelight for the last couple of years now.
I mean, unless something really serious changes, I think it's going to be hard for anybody in the world to beat him for Wrestler of the Year.
Yeah.
You know, and that includes AEW and that includes WWE and all the other indies and everything like that.
Yeah. Let's Commission 7252 says, with the rubber match happening at Dontaku and Naito challenging for the second time, if he loses and Okada retains at Dominion against anyone else, who could the possible challenger to face Okada at Wrestle Kingdom 17? I have Zack Sabre Jr., Shingo Takagi in the main event next year.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of options. And, you know, both of those guys could potentially be challengers. I think that there's still a story to be told with Will Ospreay. I think that there's also the very good possibility it could be someone that you're not expecting, like from the outside. Am I being too crazy and thinking that Kenny Omega is a possibility given the AEW partnership? I know that some people are probably listening and they're not the biggest fans of Kenny, and then other people are listening and being like, hell yeah, give that to me. But I'm just thinking, like, from a business perspective, if I'm teamed up with that company, there's like 3 guys I would possibly do against Okada in a dome if I had the opportunity. If I'm New Japan and I had access to them, well, I guess actually there's probably 4. You could do Jon Moxley, you could do Kenny Omega, you could do CM Punk, you could do Bryan Danielson. All of those are like very viable, big business opportunities that are still in front of you, that are fresh matchups that have never been done in New Japan. Almost everything else that's in New Japan has been done, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think another thing too we have to keep in mind when we're predicting Wrestle Kingdom, we're long the days are gone of one night Tokyo Domes. We're getting at least 2, maybe
three,
a third show. So
maybe four. We don't know.
Too big for one night. We're gonna have the most stupendous Wrestle Kingdom ever.
Most stupendous 5-night Wrestle Kingdom tour. The Wrestle Kingdom tour. It's gonna be 8 nights, 8 domes.
So you have to think at least 2 challengers. So you could end up having an Okada title match against somebody from New Japan, and like you mentioned, maybe another night he's facing an outsider. But as far as who maybe the main guy is, I mean, I think it's a kind of a blessing in disguise that Ibushi didn't get the title match here, and so there's an Ibushi story that you could save and do some big business off of that. Like you mentioned, there's an Ospreay story of Ospreay finally beating Okada in the Dome. So there's a lot of stuff they can do with guys there, and a lot of stuff they can do with a lot of the partnering companies as well. Yeah,
I think Ibushi is another great possibility. Another guy that we haven't mentioned, and he's been gone for a long time. I don't see Jay White and Okada have never had a proper main event in the Tokyo Dome. They've had one Tokyo Dome match. It was on the undercard, and Jay White beat Okada. They've never faced off in that position. He's also a guy that we've long held on this show that he's overdue for a G1 win. If it was me booking and we're getting everything, set to go, provided that his U.S. citizenship status is all squared away, all that paperwork and everything, I'd probably have Jay White win the G1, and I'd probably have Jay White and Okada headline the Dome at least one night.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense to me. Hawaiian Punch BV says, if Naito loses to Okada, there's still a way that you can see Naito main eventing Wrestle Kingdom. Would Okada have to lose a belt before then?
Yes, I actually do personally see a way where they could do that. It would involve Okada or Naito winning the G1. And they could even hypothetically, I don't know if they should do this. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. They could face off in the G1 again. And like you said, Jeremy, they got multiple nights of Wrestle Kingdom. So is it possible that we could get another night of these two guys in the Dome? Is that for one final time? Is that possible? Yeah. I mean, there's a part of me that says they already know that this match is past this expiration when it comes to the Tokyo Dome. So that's why we're getting this so many times here, because they kind of know it's not a Dome-worthy event, but it's still a highly marketable match. I mean, they just did this match just last month, and it didn't have they did it in a smaller arena, and it didn't have the greatest attendance, but listen to the reception that it got in Sumo Hall. The crowd was really, really into it, and I'm sure they're going to do big business at the Fukuoka Dome. So it's not like the juice is already all out of the squeeze. You know what I mean?
Right.
So is it possible that they could maybe finagle their way into doing it one more time at the Tokyo Dome? Yeah, I think they actually could. I don't think that's outside their own possibility. I would say it's unlikely, but if I was really dead set on getting everything out of this I possibly could, I might want to do that one more time. But that would probably be Naito goes over Okada in the Dome.
Right, and then you could set up a situation where the second night it's Naito and Ospreay. You're doing that first time matchup for the title. You do the double goal, whatever the situation is. Somehow Ospreay's involved in the mix. He faces Naito night 2, and then you get a big, fresh matchup for night 2.
Yeah, and that completely invalidates everything I said about, Mr. Switchblade. So
yeah. Dom Hoy 101 says, I didn't know that this wasn't the first Hyper Battle event that New Japan put on. So what are some matches that I should check out that took place at Hyper Battle?
I don't even know. Can you think of it? I mean, no, you probably can't.
No, because this is the first Hyper Battle I've watched. I know that it's a throwback show. I have not, and I didn't have a chance to look up anything before we started recording here.
I'm looking up Hyper Battle from years past. So yeah, I remember this being a big event in the 90s into the early 2000s, but I don't know if there was anything in particular. So let me see here. March Okay. So it looks like, yeah, this always ran like in March. This is the first time that like early April that it's ever actually run. So let me just do a quick search and you can move on to the next question. I'll maybe I'll have a recommendation or something. I'll take a look real quick.
Gotcha. Well, that wraps up our review of Hyper Battle. We did get a lot of match and card announcements for what's to come next in New Japan. So we got the full card for Wrestling Dontaku, which takes place in the Fukuoka Dome, the PayPay Dome, May 1st, one-night show. So like we mentioned, the main event will be Kazuchika Okada versus Tetsuya Naito for the IWGP World Heavyweight title. We'll have Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Will Ospreay for the vacant IWGP United States title. El Esperado versus Taiji Ishimori for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. Evil versus Tama Tonga for the Never Openweight title. Yoshihashi and Hiroki Goto versus Jeff Cobb and Great Khan versus Bad Luck Fale and Chase Owens for the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team titles. Ryusuke Taguchi and Master Wato versus Yoshinobu Kanemaru and Doki for the IWGP Junior Tag Team titles. Tanga Loa versus Yujiro Takahashi, and the show will open up with Tatsumi Fujinami, Shingo Takagi, and Hiromu Takahashi versus Zack Sabre Jr., Taichi, and Taka Michinoku. And Dom, we 101 asks thoughts on the lineup for this year's Wrestling Dontaku.
I think it looks pretty good. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think this looks like a really great card. Following up this Hyper Battle card, I love, again, one-night show. And we're having, look at all these stacked title matches. I mean, we got a card full-time matches and a big single matches. Another Okada Naito match will be great. Tanahashi, Ospreay will be great. Desperado Ishimori should be fine. Evil and Tama Tonga should be fine, but interesting developments there. The three-way tag title match should be good. 6 or 9 versus Kanemaru and Doki should be good. Tangaloa versus Yujiro will be whatever. Fujinami in there trying to fight for a Fighting Spirit award nomination will be fun. So overall, I think this is another really solid card. I think this will be a card that helps draw in this Fukuoka Dome, and I'm really excited and looking forward to it.
Okay, nice. Well, while you went over that, I did find a couple recommendations. So these are probably just like 3 off the top recommendations from Hyper Battles of the past. So March 20th, 1996, Shinjiro Otani versus Wild Pegasus. That's a pretty good match. Definitely worth checking out. Aside from that, on that same tour, but on March 17th, 1996, there's a 4 3/4 star rated match between Liger and Otani that is, pretty memorable. But the highest rated match from Hyper Battle tours previously is actually Manabu Nakanishi versus Yuji Nagata from March 9th, 2003. So that's one that Meltzer never did rate, but it's got an extremely high cage match rating. So those are like 3 highest rated recommendations that I can find. I think the only one that I've personally seen is the Otani Liger match. The rest of them I'm not as familiar with. That Nakanishi Nagata one sounds kind of surprising, but yeah. Nakanishi in 03, he could go. So
nice. So we also got some matches announced for the Golden Fight Series, which is a tour that will be taking place in between, in the time between we get to Wrestling Dontaku. So we had 2 title.
Are these going to be televised?
Yes. So we got 2 title matches announced for the April 25th event. So the main event of that show, Taichi will defend the KOPW Provisional Trophy against Shingo, and the Never Openweight 6-man titles will also be on the line as Evil, Yujiro, and Sho of the House of Torture will defend against Tama Tonga, Tangaloa, and Hiroshi Tanahashi. So on the rest of that card, we'll have Okada, Yo, and Yano versus Naito, Bushi, and Hiromu. Yoshihashi and Goto versus Bad Luck Fale and Chase Owens. Taka and Despi versus Taiji Ishimori and Gato. Taguchi, Wato, and Oiwa against Sabre, Doki, and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. And then Tomioka Hanuma and Togi Makabe versus Tiger Mask and Yuta Nakashima. Then next week we'll have 2 Golden Fight Series, one airing live, the other one airing VOD. So on April 18th, the live show will have Fujita versus Oiwa, Wato and Nakashima versus Despi and Kanemaru, Taguchi, Makabe versus Doki and Sabre, Goto, Yano, and Yoshihashi, and Tiger Mask versus Fale, Chase, Gato, and Taiji, Tama Tonga, Tangaloa, Tanahashi, and Jado versus all the House of Torture, Taichi and Taka versus Bushi and Shingo. And the main event will be Okada and Yo versus Hiromu and Naito. Then on the 19th, the video on demand show will have Wato versus Vegeta, Taguchi versus Oiwa, Makabe and Hanma and Tiger Mask versus Goto, Yano, and Yoshihashi. Doki, Desperado, Kanemaru, and Zack Sabre Jr. against Fale, Chase, Gato, and Taiji. Tamatanga, Tangaloa, Tanahashi, and Jado versus House of Torture. Taichi and Taka versus Hiromu and Shingo. And the main event of Okada and Yo versus Bushi and Naito.
Yeah, so nothing here really is lighting my world on fire necessarily. It's just a lot of like preview tags, which is fine. But, you know, I think obviously the most interesting thing here is that Taichi Shingo KOPW provisional trophy title match. We don't know what those stipulations that are being proposed are yet. I'm sure we'll find that out very shortly. And when we do, I'm looking forward to that more so than anything else in this, Golden Fight Series tours, basically.
Yeah. So then let's jump ship now over to New Japan of America. We did have night 2 of the Strong Style Evolve Tour that aired here in St. Pete, Florida, that we attended live. So the show opened up this week with the young gun Hikuleo defeating Andy Brown, 4 minutes and 34 seconds.
Yeah. Again, if you're watching this on World, which you should be because this was a good set of tapings, upper left-hand corner near the entrance is the Social Suplex crew. You can see us. You can see me. I'm like doing the big like boos and thumbs down to guys and stuff like that.
During Hikuleo's entrance, I threw it with Too Sweet to him, and that man stared daggers at me that I threw it with Too Sweet. So then I tried to throw it down. He still stored daggers at me. So this man was not happy that I was trying to Too Sweet him.
Yeah, he doesn't want the support of the Ace of Podcast, but that's all right. Hikuleo versus Andy Brown was fine. You know, it was Hikuleo coming out and giving some hope spots to Andy Brown, who is a WWN guy, kind of well known in the area here, and someone who I think actually is, looks are sort of deceiving. I think he wrestles better than his physique would give off, and I think he kind of showcased that here. But ultimately, it was just a little bit above a squash match here. Hikuleo looked impressive in victory and defeats Andy Brown 4 minutes, 34 seconds.
Yeah, and Tiger Hattori was on the call for this match, and he had a hilarious line. So Andy Brown's like,
hilarious.
Is thick daddy. He's like, oh, yes, he does look like a thick daddy.
Yeah, I heard that. It was really funny.
So next up, we have the walking weapon, Josh Alexander, defeating the Alpha Wolf, Carl Fredericks, 14 minutes and 14 seconds.
You know, live, I liked this match, and watching it back on tape, I wasn't the biggest fan of this match. And you know why? I think it was mainly because Josh Alexander kind of ate up Carl Fredericks for most of the match. And that didn't really come through to me watching it live. You know why too? This is the very tail end of the tour, or of the night. These were like the last 4 matches of the night, if I recall, or maybe not.
The Hikuleo match was the first match of the show.
Oh, that's right. So they like really cut this stuff up, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. But anyway, that throws my theory out.
But the Josh Alexander match, I think that match was later on though.
Okay, gotcha. Because I was like, man, I just like maybe I wasn't paying as much attention by then because it was a long show, and I know like at the tail end, my energy was like dropping in hour 4 of the show.
Yeah.
But Alexander just kind of ate up Carl Fredericks, which we've kind of seen. Carl Fredericks has like been losing a lot of the singles matches he's been with veterans, and then the matches he has been winning, he's been going life and death with guys that I think don't deserve to be getting as much shine against him. And that was kind of on display here again. And I get it. It's Josh Alexander. He's one of the top guys in Impact. But, he got, I would say, 80% of the offense in this match. He ends up beating Carl Fredericks in a good competitive match, but still one where I just think that they should be giving more to Carl. And then at the end of it, they did the same thing that he did with Christopher Daniels and I think a few other guys where, he's like forlorn in defeat, and then he shakes the guy's hand, and the other guy raises his hand, and like I'm used to the young Lions like being pissed after they lose and like basically like being like, fuck that, don't shake my hand. I don't want to be friends with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like Carl Frederick's been like, oh shucks, guy. You know?
Yeah.
I don't think that helps.
Yeah, but it does kind of feel like this is him losing led into this storyline, which happened after the match. We had QT Marshall, Nick Comoroto, and Aaron Solo from AEW, The Factory. They came out here, made their New Japan debut, and pretty much running down to LA Dojo, running down Shibata, and telling Frederick he needs to come and train at The Factory. Look at what The Factory's done for Comoroto and Aaron Solo, and Solo has wrestled Liger before, and really just kind of burying the dojo, putting over The Factory. Fredericks, of course, refused to join The Factory. He was getting a beat down. Then we had Yumura and Clark Connors come down and make the save, and then LA Dojo made a challenge to The Factory for Windy City Riot for a 6-man tag.
Yeah, so it was very surprising live when this occurred because, we didn't expect to see these guys from AEW show up here. So, I mean, that was kind of like, and we'll talk about it in the news, but, another key indicator that there's even more to this, alliance between New Japan and AEW. But at the same time, it is QT and it is Nick Comoroto. So it's not like, the tip top AEW stars or anything like that. But it was still live in the crowd and the audience. That was pretty cool. And I guess if you're watching at home, that's probably a little bit of a shock. But
yeah.
At the same time, I'm like, damn, like I don't know. Like I'm not buying Carl Fredericks right now, and I feel like they need to be giving him more.
Yeah. Well, maybe the storyline will lead to him getting some more. I guess we'll have to see how that plays out. But speaking of top AEW stars, we did get one here in this next matchup. Eddie Kingston teaming with Fred Rosser. They defeated Daniel Garcia and Fred Yehai. Also, Eddie Kingston feuding with Daniel Garcia and the Jericho Appreciation Society over in AEW, and that rivalry spilled over here into New Japan Strong, with Eddie just being in rage and incensed and going after Garcia before the bell and just all throughout the matchup.
Had the Jericho stuff already occurred before this?
Yes. So they did, before this taping was when Eddie got powerbombed through the table.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Because, I mean, during the post-match comments, like, Daniel Garcia, he said something hilarious. He was like, just so you know, next time I'm in New Japan, I'm not here to be the king of sports. I'm here to be the king of sports entertainment. So I was like, oh, okay. Did they already know that they were going with the Jericho Appreciation Society, or like had that already occurred? I don't know. But I liked this match a lot. I mean, just the intensity between Kingston and Daniel Garcia. I mean, that's very visceral and a continuation of the AEW storyline. Plus, Fred Rosser, I can't praise the guy enough. He's just been a standout this entire, past couple of years that he's been in New Japan, and vastly, outdone my initial expectations of the guy. And then Yehai is someone who I'm super high on as well. And I felt like even though he had kind of a minor role here, he just really is a standout and always, like, he just brings it. He's a very violent, very sound technical wrestler. And all four of these guys, I mean, they got 10 minutes and this match just kind of breezed by. It was awesome. And, I could see them all wrestle one another again. I wouldn't care. I like this one a lot.
Yeah, this match was a lot of fun. And with Yehai, I do hope that at some point they can get something a little bit more solid for him storyline-wise. He's kind of been kind of a floater since being on Strong. But, yeah, really good match.
He's a killer. We got pillars, and he's one of the killers.
But we did see a lot of intensity here. Eddie brought a lot of life to the show, obviously getting a big pop for being AW guy, and just the intensity he was bringing to Daniel Garcia was good stuff here. Also, Fred Rosser is continuing his campaign to be the next Strong challenger, so he picked up the win here over Fred Yehai. Then we had the main event here, US of J Open Challenge. First time where Jay knew who his opponent was ahead of time, being Chris Sabin, and because of the way it's aired, technically the Multiverse of Matches match during WrestleMania weekend aired first, so technically this airing was the rematch of the WrestleMania weekend match where Sabin got the win, so this was a rematch here and Jay White does get the win. He defeats Chris Sabin in 18 minutes and 12 seconds.
Yeah, it was interesting because on commentary, they didn't give away necessarily that they knew the outcome of the match previously, but they did allude to the idea that it had already occurred on tape, even though in reality this preceded it. So, that's another one of those kind of hiccups with Strong, but they didn't break continuity too bad. The biggest difference here between the match that they had at the Impact Show WrestleMania weekend is Chris Sabin defeated Jay White with like a roll up. And towards the tail end of this match, Chris Sabin tried to go for his finish. What's his finish called again?
The Cradle Shock.
Yeah, I always think it's like the Shock Arrow or something like that. Yeah, the Cradle Shock. And Jay White was able to counter out of that high impact maneuver and catch him in the Sister Abigail, or what's he called?
The Blade Runner.
The Blade Runner. I always forget the Blade Runner at 18 minutes 12 seconds. So very good match. I don't know, which did you were there live for both matches. So, I mean, you kind of have a unique perspective. I think you're probably the only person that was there live for both matches from an audience. So, I mean, what did you think?
Yeah, I think I like the second one a little bit better is because...
Which is the second one? I don't know what...
Well, I guess, okay, I like the multiverse of matches one a little bit better just because of these, I think mainly the surprise element of Sabin winning. Because like we mentioned earlier, like Jay White doesn't lose very often in one-on-one matches outside of New Japan. I think the Impact crowd, it was a hot Impact crowd. People were behind Sabin, and I think just the fact that he was able to pull up the upset made that match a little bit better than this match, where I think going into this match, we were all kind of very confident that, yeah, Jay for sure is winning. And with this being a more new crowd, New Japan Strong, I don't think they were as behind Sabin as like the Impact crowd was.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But I still thought it was a very strong outing, and not that you didn't think so either. I mean,
yeah, I thought it was a great matchup.
Yeah, obviously, and I agree with you too. I think this was a very good match. I mean, I think Jay's just like right now, Jay's the MVP of New Japan of America, hands down, because he's going out there at the top of the tour every single time and knocking it out of the park with whoever it is they put him in there with.
Yeah. We did have a question here from Ghost of Doc Gonzo. With all the wins Jay White has been racking up over here in the States, do you guys think it's possible that we could see Okada defend the belt against White at Capital Collision?
I wouldn't put it past them to potentially run some sort of promo or angle setting up something down the line, but considering that they're usually running fairly minor buildings here in the States, even for these larger shows that they're doing periodically, I don't think that they would do that big of a match in that building, especially considering the last time they wrestled in the States, it was in Madison Square Garden. So I would say no.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like kind of a, like, I understand. I think it makes sense, like, story-wise, that Jay's got all these wins and he can't get to Japan quite yet, so you do a big world title match. But I think, yeah, it would need to be done in a bigger venue if that was going to happen. Like you said, I think Jay and Okada, you might save that for Wrestle Kingdom. So now let's transfer over to Windy City Riot, which will be happening this Saturday, April 16th, only on Fight TV. Even the Japanese commentary version you have to purchase through pay-per-view on New Japan World. So they're kind of going for a pay-per-view model only here for this show. I'm assuming at some point, maybe down the road, it'll be up on New Japan World. But it seems like if English, you have to buy through Fight TV, and then through for Japanese, you still have to buy it through New Japan World, similar to like a Taichi Takamania, where it's a pay-per-view on New Japan World.
Here's my biggest complaint and concern about this. Fight TV has never successfully pulled off a competent New Japan show in the States, ever. Not once have they ever done this. So I think, like, the idea that they want to charge me or anybody here in the States or abroad pay-per-view dollars after, like, let's just compare it to the most recent outing that they had, which was Battle in the Valley. I would never pay them money to watch a show with that level of production and that many production issues. It's just not going to happen, period. And it's a really bad, we've talked about it in the past, it's a really bad look for the number 2 or number 3 company in the world to be putting that kind of effort forward by partnering with Fight TV and requiring people to pay these larger, dollar amounts for a show. Now, I understand. I think that they probably believe that they've got a match in Moxley and Ospreay that will draw well on Fight TV domestically. I've gone into depth in the past explaining why I believe that the pay-per-view model is a mistake for New Japan, and that terrestrial distribution is going to be much better on through a television provider that's garnering them ad revenue, as well as the long-term play of getting rollover money month over month through New Japan World subscriptions, as opposed to the short-term play of pricey pay-per-views, especially when you don't have television to back it up. So I do think that this is a mistake, and I will tell you, I'm probably not going to watch this live, or if I do, I don't know, I might wait for the replay, because I can't see myself shelling out. How much is this? $20, $25?
$24.99.
Yeah, and I mean, now if they were putting on the kind of productions that Access TV used to put on, and I also wonder, if they're back on Access, why can't we have this aired on Access like in the olden days? That's when things were really good. And I mean, that would really help their viewership, but they're not doing that. I would maybe pay for it if it had that level of production, but considering what we've gone through in the past with Fight TV, I'm not going to do it. And I'd be surprised if they have the levels of success that they're hoping for, especially coming off WrestleMania weekend, especially coming off of all those big shows, the Ring of Honor show and the AEW pay-per-views that have been on the calendar, and WrestleMania and everything. I mean, it's a very flooded, saturated market,
Yeah, I mean, I do think Moxley and Ospreay is a huge matchup that a lot of fans are interested in. I think just from that standpoint alone, I think people are probably going to try and give Fight TV a shot to watch that matchup. And overall, I mean, top to bottom, it's just like a pretty good show. So I think people will probably give them a try. Like you, I'm very leery on Fight TV. Like you mentioned, U.S. Japan, even international. You remember Royal Quest, that UK show, that was a disaster. Fight TV has just not been very reliable in streaming New Japan shows, and I think if I'm New Japan, maybe you use that AW partnership to get some of their production, because it seemed like the Ring of Honor went fine on Fight TV, but also they were using the AEW production. So yeah, that's going to be an issue here. They definitely, with them being back on Access, they should look back into, like you mentioned, airing live on Access using Access TV production. But again, I guess I don't know what their deal is now compared to last time, and with Impact kind of being the owner of Access and how all that works out. But yeah, Fight TV here. I mean, this could again ruin a really great show.
Yeah. So let's go through the show very briefly. Just a quick, preview here. So. First match of the night, we got QT Marshall, Aaron Solo, Nick Komoroto, the Factory. They're going to be taking on the Fight team from the LA Dojo, Carl Fredericks, Clark Connors, Yuya Uemura. Quick thoughts on this and predictions.
Should be an interesting matchup. I'm going to go with the LA Dojo guys getting the win.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the LA Dojo guys as well, although hypothetically, if you wanted to continue a feud between these factions, I mean, who knows? Maybe post-match there's some sort of attack, or maybe the Factory cheats to get a win to set something up for down the line. So,
well, we do know there's already a match that was taped for Mutiny, a tag team match. So,
okay.
So I guess it is possible the Factory gets to win here to build to that mutiny match.
Yeah, that might be one to look out for. I'm going to go with I'm just going to ride with the LA Dojo boys, but something obviously needs to pop off here to probably prompt that match at Mutiny. So
yeah.
Next match, we have the Chicago Street Fight. This is the one that's been set up for a little bit while. Here we got Dave Finley, Juice Robinson, and their mystery partner. This is now confirmed.
Yep.
Okay, and they will be teaming with Brody King to take on Shane Haste, Jonah, and Bad Dude Tito. So, Jeremy, thoughts here?
This should be a fun, wild brawl. In the post-match, Finn Juice said they want somebody who can bring violence. So obviously they got Brody King here. And it's going to be a little bit weird because, like we've mentioned, Brody King, previously he was a babyface on New Japan, but then now in AEW, he's a heel. He's part of House of Black, and we have been seeing continuity with AEW presentation on New Japan Strong. So it's kind of weird here that they're teaming with Brody King, and I wonder if it's something where Brody eventually leaves them to hangs them to dry, and he leaves them, and they're stuck with a 3-on-2 against the Mighty Don't Kneel here. So I'm gonna go with the Mighty Don't Kneel to win this.
Yeah, that's probably not. I don't know. I'm gonna change my whole thing. I think the Kingdom. The Factory's winning the first match, and then I think the good guys are gonna win this second match just because I don't know, they should. But I believe what should happen here is because Toni Storm's on AEW. She's dating Juice Robinson. And Brody King is from AEW. Julia Hart has been infected with some black mist from the House of Black. So I think we're going to see the Varsity Blondes show up in this with Julia Hart. Then all of a sudden, Toni Storm comes out. You think Toni Storm's a good guy. No, she's evil. She's House of Black. All of a sudden, oh my God, Julia Hart, she's House of Black. That's going to establish a tag team with those two girls back on AEW. All of a sudden, oh my God, David Finlay, he's House of Black. So is Juice Finlay. And then fucking Fit Finlay's going to come out. He's House of Black. And then guess what? Swoggle comes out. He's fucking House of Black too. Okay?
Oh, man.
And I don't think the Mighty Don't Kneel can handle that many evil, henchmen from the House of Black. So there's going to be a lot of mist in this match.
A lot of tables, a lot of mist. Yeah, will be definitely a wild one.
For the next match, we have we got Great O'Khan, Jeff Cobb, Aaron Hanari, TJP, Mark Davis, and Kyle Fletcher, the United Empire. They'll be taking on the Bullet Club team of Hikuleo, Chris Bay, El Phantasmo, the Good Brothers, Carl Anderson, and Doc Gallows. And for the first time teaming with the Bullet Club, Scott Flash Norton, which is interesting because in the past, he's been part of Team 2000, NWO Japan. And if you recall, during New Year's Dash a few years back, he faced off against the Bullet Club team, teaming with Team 2000. And during that match, Kenny Omega walked out, offered him a Bullet Club shirt, said, "You could be with us, be like the old days. We're the new NWO Japan. You can be with us." And he rejected that, but somehow he has now come into the fold of this modern Bullet Club. So is Scott Norton a mark for this shit, or what's the deal?
He's a mark for the paycheck, brother. Yeah, this should be a fun matchup here. I'm gonna go with Bullet Club getting the win to set up Good Brothers challenging Cobb and O'Khan for the tag titles.
I'll go with Bullet Club because it's America and it's Bullet Club. Next match, we have Fred Rosser, Chris Dickinson, Josh Alexander, and Alex Coughlin, as well as Ren Narita. They'll be teaming up to take on Team Filthy, Royce Isaacs, Jarrell Nelson, Jared Kratos, Danny Limelight, and Black Tiger. So interesting that we got Black Tiger here teaming with Team Filthy, but no Rocky Romero.
So actually, they did just announce a pre-show dark match for Windy City Riot, where Rocky Romero will be teaming with Wheeler Utah to take on the team of the DKC and Kevin Knight.
That's interesting too, because recently on the last tour, we saw Wheeler Yuta team with Rocky Romero as Chaos, but that was via his best friends membership. But he's no longer part of the best friends. He's now part of the Blackpool Combat Club in AEW. But I guess he's still. It's like I've always said, once you're Chaos, you never stop being Chaos.
Yeah, the graphics says Chaos underneath Rocky and Wheeler Yuta.
Wait, so do you think that this means that in AEW, best friends are Chaos, but in New Japan, Blackpool Combat Club and best friends are both Chaos? So like Bryan Danielson's Chaos, Wheeler Yuta's Chaos,
Jon
Moxley's now Chaos,
William Regal,
and so is William Regal. They're all Chaos.
I don't know. I don't know if the offer. I don't know if Okada extended the offer to Mox, Danielson, or Regal yet. But
bro, Okada doesn't extend offers to anybody to come into Chaos. He doesn't know who's in Chaos. he like is way above that. He's just focusing on the world title. Who do you think? If there was someone that's like offering, I think it's Yano is the guy that offers the extension.
I think it's Rocky. I think Okada is like the president of Chaos, but Rocky is like the one like that's making all like puts everything in action. So
I think on the U.S. front he might be.
Yeah,
but like I'm pretty sure Yano like oversees Rocky. Like Yano's Rocky's boss.
But yeah, this multi-man match should be good. I think that the main thing here is continuing Rosser trying to prove that he deserves a strong title match. So I'm going to say Rosser's team's going to get the win here.
Yeah, that's probably what we're leading to, so that makes sense. The last 4 matches of the night, this is where we start getting into the strong singles matches. We have a title match, the NJPW Strong Openweight title. Tom Lawler defends his belt against Yuji Nagata.
Yeah, this should be fun. First time Philly Tom's getting a one-on-one match on one of these New Japan US pay-per-view shows. He's getting, as he likes to call him, Blue Just Ass, Yuji Nagata. So this should be a fun matchup here. Philly Tom and Kojima was really good. And that strong title match on Strong, and now he's mixing up with Yuji Nagata. Should be a great match to highlight Filthy Tom and have him defend the title against a domestic challenger. So I'm going with Filthy Tom retaining here.
Yeah, very much looking forward to this. I liked, like you said, the Kojima match, and Nagata's even better than Kojima in these days. So this one will be even better. This one will be even better than that one. But I do think Tom Lawler's going to retain just because he's got a date with Fred Rosser down the line. So after that, we have the USFJ Open Challenge, as Jay White will be facing the much feared TBA, or Tiba, as he's known in some parts of the country. And, this Tiba guy, I haven't found too much tape on him, but I hear that he's a rough customer. So I'm going to take Jay, but you never know with this Tiba guy.
Yeah, I mean, they're in Chicago. Do they pull some Chicago native?
Oh, it's going to be CM Punk.
I don't know about that. I'm thinking more like a Colt Cabana. I don't know. I think it's going to be. I think Jay's going to win. So I'm thinking like somebody like Colt or some, a Chicago favorite, but somebody that Jay.
Warhorse. Danhausen.
If
Marco Stunt. I don't know who it's going to be.
Yeah, but I'm just going to go with Jay for now.
Yeah, Jay's going to win. Hopefully it's someone good, and hopefully it's something interesting. So we'll see. The semi-main event, we've got Tomohiro Ishii versus Minoru Suzuki. These guys, every time they mix it up, it's blow away, and it's going to be very violent. A lot of headbutts, a lot of chops, a lot of forearms, a lot of punches, a lot of kicks. I mean, this is going to be strikers galore. So,
yeah, it's going to be an awesome matchup. Going to go with Ishii here, and if Suzuki is still a TV champion going into this matchup, then this could either become a TV title match or it could set up Ishii getting a TV title match in the future.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to ride with you. And then the main event, we've got the Death Rider, Jon Moxley. First time ever match between him and Will Ospreay. And, you know, they just put out the video VTR package for this, and they did a pretty good job putting together a pretty compelling video package. So I don't know, man. This is a tough one. I mean, you got Will Ospreay, who is, you know, a former world champion in this company. He's a tip top guy. He's a major player, you know, not only in the States, but also in Europe, also in Japan. And he doesn't need a lot of losses. But then at the same time, you got Jon Moxley, who's like one of the absolute tip top guys in AEW, someone who's very highly protected in New Japan. Both guys, they don't take very many losses. And like, I don't know what to expect here, or if this is a one-off, this is leading to something else. Like, I don't know. What do you think, man? This is a pick-up.
Yeah, man, this is a very difficult one, especially when you look at Ospreay's schedule. He has a U.S. title match coming up. He's defending the Rev Pro title coming up against Suzuki. He's defending the Warrior Wrestling title, I believe, against Blake Christian coming up. Though Ospreay has a lot going on, and he's a champion all over. So eating a loss here could hurt him. And then you look at Jon Moxley, top guy in AEW, former AEW World Champion, doing this Blackpool Combat Club stuff with Danielson and Regal right now on a real hot streak since he's returned back to action. And, you know, there's got to be some politics at play here. Does TK allow his top guy to go and compete against him? Because AEW Battle of the Belts is Saturday also airing at the same time on TNT. Does he allow one of their top guys to go over and compete against them and then lose? I don't know. To me, I'm thinking I'm leaning towards Moxley, and there's going to be some disputed finish that's going to continue Ospreay's storyline of New Japan screwing him. Because if you remember in the Sonata promo when he came out, he kept talking about how all different ways that New Japan has been screwing him in the past few months. So I can see some kind of wonky finish here where Moxley wins, but Ospreay has a dispute to why he didn't lose. And then that could be added to his list of, you know, New Japan also screwed me in Windy City Riot.
That is very probable. At the same time, right now, Jon Moxley is not in contention for any world titles. He's not necessarily carrying anything to the point to where, you know, he needs to be protected on that level. So I do think it is possible that he could take that loss and be fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with Will Ospreay.
Okay.
I think that Jon Moxley could be fine to eat that pinfall this one time, and then later on down the road might be in a position to get that win back from Will when maybe it matters even more.
Right. And I think the thing to keep in mind too is the whole United Empire is going to be in the building here, except maybe minus Francisco Cara, but the whole other crew will be there. So maybe you do have, you know, United Empire coming out here. I know typically they don't really interfere in each other's matches, but if you want to get Ospreay to win in a cheating fashion, maybe you have those guys come out and help him win.
Yeah, that's another good point. So we will wait and see. So that is going to air this Saturday night, and we will bring you coverage next week. So last couple things, we got news, couple questions.
Yeah, we have a question here from Tim Smith saying, will any of the listeners be meeting up at the show? You know, Josh and I won't be there, but I highly recommend that if you guys are going to Chicago, you should try and organize some kind of meetup before the show, hang out, find a bar nearby. You can hop in our Discord, hop in Voice of Wrestling Discord, Twitter, Reddit, and try and get people together and hang out before a show.
Yep, that's a great idea. And if we were there, we would try to do the same. So we got news, a few listeners' questions, then we're going to jump to recommend a match of the week and close things out. So a couple news items here. First thing, New Japan is reportedly obtaining visas for foreign talent to come to Japan. Fightful Select reported this afternoon that for the first time since the COVID-19 pandemic struck in 2020, New Japan has been obtaining visas for foreign talent. They reported that several names will be brought in over for the next few months, including the upcoming Best Super Juniors tournament that's going to be taking place next month. So that report was from a few days ago. So that's really good news. That's a great sign that we probably are getting Gaijin talent very soon.
Yeah.
Also, there was a big report. If you've been on New Japan World, you've probably already seen the results of it, where AEW Dynamite is now going to be, and Rampage will be airing on New Japan World with Japanese commentary. Now, this is a Japan region only feature. So if you're living in the States, you can't watch Dynamite on New Japan World. But if you are over in Japan, you will be able to watch it both in English and with Japanese commentary. So, just another further development of the kind of ongoing partnership between these two companies.
Yeah, and Shingo Takagi was on the call for some of these Dynamite shows, and just somebody did a thread of translating a lot of his comments, and they're pretty funny, some of the stuff he was saying during commentary. So if you are a Japanese listener and you have New Japan World, I think you should definitely check out Dynamite, especially with guys like Shingo doing commentary and potentially planting the seeds for future matchups.
Yeah, the other thing too is I read some of the translated Reddit posts of Japanese audiences that were watching Dynamite, and a lot of them didn't seem to be too familiar with exactly what was going on, but they really almost overwhelmingly were extremely positive about what they saw, about the commentary, and about the access to that product, which just makes everything about the idea of these two companies working together more so viable moving forward. So, that's a great thing. Next news item, Chris Dickinson announced on his Instagram that he is now signed with New Japan Pro Wrestling. So I don't know the details. I would have assumed he probably would have been signed in some form or fashion, but this seems to be an even more solidified status. And if it does mean it's an official, let's say, New Japan proper, domestic type contract, that's an excellent thing. But even if it's just a stateside, New Japan Strong contract, I mean, that's still a really great step either way, because I think Chris Dickinson's one of the tip-top guys that they have here in the States.
Yeah, definitely. And, with the news of visas being handed out, I would assume that he's one of the guys that they're fighting to get a visa for. And so I would love to see Dickinson in Japan. Hopefully we get him in maybe for G1 or something like that. So, yeah, very excited for Chris and looking forward to what he's going to be doing in New Japan in the future.
Nice. This week, Hulk Hogan versus Keiji Muto is the free match of the week on New Japan World. If you've never seen it, this was a match of the WWF champion versus the IWGP heavyweight champion in a special dream match from the first ever Wrestling Dontaku in 1993 from the Fukuoka Dome. So if you've never seen it, it's kind of required viewing. You got to see it. Really great match. We've covered it in the past during our recommended match of the week segment. Also in breaking news, Minoru Suzuki will be defending the ROH TV title against Samoa Joe on Wednesday Night Dynamite. So by the time this show drops and you're listening to it, it either is shortly going to be occurring or it may have already happened, but that's one to definitely look out. That's got Excursion Match of the Year potential written all over it.
Definitely.
Rocky Romero will also be facing Jonathan Gresham on Impact on Thursday, so keep that one marked on your calendars as well. And then finally, sad bit of news here. New Japan alumni Shinjiro Otani, he remains paralyzed following an injury that was suffered at the 0-1 show on Sunday. Company president Takahito Kami spoke to Tokyo Sports on Monday and confirmed that Otani's condition remained unchanged. Hasn't changed. He's conscious but can't move his limbs. Currently, he's being treated by a doctor. And as for the official diagnosis, we're waiting for a reply from the hospital. The 49-year-old took a German suplex into the turnbuckle during the night's main event, was unable to move after. The ring ropes were removed, fans were asked to leave, and Otani was eventually stretchered out and taken to the hospital. He was challenging the promotion's world champion, Takahashi Sugiura. And even earlier today, I saw Dave Meltzer tweeting on this matter saying that he was going into surgery to try and see if they could work on the spine, see if there was nerve damage, and see if they could prevent any further deterioration from occurring here. But it's not looking good. So best wishes and thoughts to Otani and his family. And yeah, very, very unfortunate thing here.
Yeah, it's always a sad thing when something like that happens in the ring.
Yep. And then, Jeremy, you want to take us to the questions and get us out of here?
Yeah, so a few questions here. Less Commission 7252 says, when will it be time for the young boy Josh to go on excursion?
Well, currently I am not in the ring, but I do plan to change that very shortly. I've been working on my physique and on my cardio and strength and just getting myself more fit. I'm also working on different aspects of my professional career, and I kind of need to take care of that primarily first and foremost. And once I have a couple of milestones out of the way, I will be back in the gym. I've been talking to Matt even as recently as last week. In fact, I don't know if people know this. The Sai Dojo has now merged with Jay Lethal's Lethal Academy / Wrestling Lab. So they're now just one school. I don't know. It just happened. So I don't know the official details.
Yeah, I did see like Instagram post like Matt and Jay, at the school. So I thought maybe Matt was just visiting, but I didn't know that they realized that they merged.
Yeah, they're merged. So it's just one school now. The only thing I know is I'm paying, I don't care what anyone says, I'm paying the same dues I always paid. I'm getting grandfathered in under my rate. I don't care what they charge all those other wrestling lab kids that sign up for the tuition. I'm not doing that shit. Like, so we'll see.
He also asked, from any company, what is y'all's favorite heel versus heel match? He says his favorite is Triple H versus Kurt Angle from the Royal Rumble in 2001.
Kenny Omega versus Tetsuya Naito from the G1 in 2017.
Yeah.
Or 16 or whatever it is.
That's a pretty amazing matchup, yeah. I'll go with that also. Dark Soldier says, serious question. Jeremy, have you finally given young boy complete and utter creative control of the wedding?
No. I don't have any control.
No, I have not done that. Hawaiian.
Listen, if I had creative control, this wedding would be lit. Okay, I'm telling you guys.
Oh man. Hawaiian Punch VV says, who did you have winning the rematch between Jan and Sterling? I thought it was close, but not a robbery.
I didn't watch UFC this weekend.
I did not.
Although I do need to see the Gilbert Burns versus Chimaev match, because from what I understand, it's fight of the year, but I didn't see any of it. So yeah. I can't really comment.
Yeah, I missed this weekend's UFC also, so I can't comment on it either. He also asked, what do you think about GGG's performance? Do you think he should stay away from the tippy-top guys, or should he get the bag from the third Canelo fight?
I also did not see Canelo Alvarez fight this past weekend, Triple G either.
All right, so we'll move on from that. Thoughts on the upcoming three-belt, or from Down 101, thoughts on the upcoming three-belt welterweight unification between Errol Truth Spence Jr. and Jordan's 54 Milagros Ugas?
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. I was really impressed with Ugas against Pacquiao, but, I think Errol Spence is like the best guy out there that's not named Terrence Crawford. So I would assume Errol Spence should win, but, Ugas, he's a tough customer, bro. Like, he really can fight. So who knows?
He also asked, which fight would you see GGG in? GG versus Jamal Charlo or GG versus Canelo?
Triple G.
Triple G.
Yeah, I think you should fight Canelo and get that money. I mean, that's the thing that makes the most sense to me. I could be wrong here, but I feel like going up to 168 is going to be a benefit to Triple G at this point in his career. And, they got a score to settle, and that's probably going to be the most money. I think fighting Jamal Charlo is going to be the way higher risk and much lower reward. So
nice. Well, let's end here with recommended match of the week. So let's talk about last week's pick first, and then we will announce what we've decided to do moving forward with this segment of the show. So last week I recommended for Josh and for listeners to watch Zack Sabre Jr. versus Kushida from April 13th, 2017, Rev Pro Epic Encounters for the Rev Pro British Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, this match is awesome. And for a little bit of context, this match is occurring days after Kushida had wrestled Hiromu Takahashi at Sumo Hall in the match where Hiromu just completely mopped Kushida and accidentally legit knocked him out within the opening moments of the match, and then they had to go to a quick finish, and he just literally got like smoked within like under, I think it was less than 2 minutes. This is just a few days after that, so it's kind of like really interesting to kind of see Kushida come into enemy territory as a face, and then on the flip side, you got Zack Sabre Jr., who's been this, he comes in Zachy 3 belts. I mean, he's got the Evolve title and the PWG title and the Rev Pro title simultaneously, but he had just recently joined the ranks of Suzuki-gun. So this is kind of like the genesis of his big heel run in New Japan and thus in Rev Pro as well. And they went out there and they had an excellent match. And as crazy as it may sound, I mean, it's been a long time since we talked about Kushida on the show because he's been over there in the Fed and spending time in NXT 2.0, which probably was a bad career choice, but whatever. But man, he was so incredible technically. And even in this match, I mean, they really showed what he can do from a ground perspective and from a grappling perspective against one of the very best at the time, Zack Sabre Jr. And, in my opinion, I thought he shone even higher and brighter than Zach did in this match. Now, Zach was still fantastic at the time, but the guy that really had that professional polish and that big league like shine to him was Kushida, and I felt like he was able to kind of guide Zach to an even higher level than Zach probably was used to. And that's not knocking Zach. Zach was already kind of established as like the tip top, like technical guy, but I mean, comparing him in 2022 to 2017, I mean, he's grown immensely since that time, and he was kind of a little bit like still fantastic, but there was like some shindiness there, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And another thing too, like I loved a lot of the like throwback spots to like rings and to like early MMA Pancrase UFC spots where these guys were doing dueling like leg locks and slap spots and everything like that. But ultimately, Zach was able to kind of overcome Kushida here in a very, very heated technical bout. From York Hall, which I think is always one of the best crowds and best venues in all of, the UK. And I always love watching wrestling from there. And the production value of Rev Pro is better in 2017 than it is in 2021, which is weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, just an awesome match. It's on New Japan World. If you've never seen it, I highly recommend it. I went 4.5 on it. And, if someone went higher, I don't know. I wouldn't really begrudge them on it. I thought this was incredible. And, the end of it was Kushida pretty much outdoing Zach almost every time all throughout the match, but getting a little too cute with it and going for, what's that bridge that they do?
What that Sabre does?
Yeah.
The European clutch?
Yeah. Kushida tried to go for his own European clutch after they'd done like a bunch of different counter, and then Kushida tries to go to a European clutch, and Zach counters that into his own European clutch for the 1-2-3. So he was able to kind of just barely get past Kushida, who I think was getting the better of him most of the match, honestly.
Yeah, I would agree on that. Yeah, really good matchup there. So, all right, here's what we're going to do, guys, going forward for recommended match of the week. So we threw the poll out there. Thank you to everybody who voted. Seemed very equal throughout. At one point, the poll was 50-50. A lot of the comments we get of, why not do both? And, we would be happy with either or. So here's what we decide to do. Going forward, each week, we are going to do both. So one person will recommend an excursion match. One person will recommend a normal style recommended match of the week. We will alternate those each week on who's doing what, but we'll be throwing out 2 matches each week, and then we'll give you the options for those. The excursion matches might be a little bit harder to find, but we will help you out with links to that. We'll do both each week, see how that works out. If it's not sustainable for us to review 2 extra matches a week, then maybe we'll end up going with 1. But we are going to try and do both going forward. So this week, Josh has a pick for the normal recommended match of the week, and I have a pick for an excursion match for us to watch this week.
Yeah, ultimately, we felt like there was benefit to both of these things. I think up until literally like an hour before we did the show, we were going to go just straight to excursion match of the week because we felt like a change might be more fitting. And ultimately, if someone wants a match recommendation at any point, we can give that to you guys. Plus, they always put a free match of the week on New Japan World that's usually pretty obscure anyways. So I think if this doesn't work out, we might revert to excursion match of the week. But we are, we're going to try this format out where each of us give one another a match to watch, and then we'll come back and review and then alternate. It does mean that when guests come on, we're probably not going to ask them for recommendations or anything like that, just to kind of make it a little easier to keep track of and everything like that. We did recently make the full list of recommended matches of the week available on the Social Suplex website. We did tweet it out as well. So if you're looking for that, that's now out there. It took me a lot of time, effort to put that together. So be thankful, my God. And we're going to try and expand our efforts to make a lot of our awards, our monthly awards, and our recommended matches more accessible to you guys in the future. But without further ado, I'll give you guys the recommended match of the week, and then Jeremy has an excursion match, and then we will come back next week. And again, if this doesn't work out for any reason, we retain the right to, change formats.
Yeah.
But because we don't get enough Kushida in our life, and I just felt like this match was one we've never done, I felt like it'd be a good idea to kind of review it. I'm going to kick it back to Invasion Attack, April 10th, 2016, the debut match of Will Ospreay in New Japan, challenging for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title against Kushida.
Nice. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that match, so that should be a fun one to check out. And then for our excursion match of the week, we're going to go with Speedball Mike Bailey versus Minoru Suzuki from April 10th, Game Changer Wrestling Show, GCW Devil in a New Dress. So Speedball Mike Bailey, the weekend warrior of WrestleMania weekend, having a big matchup here against Suzuki, GCW. Heard a lot of good things about the matchup. And Bailey could be a guy that's potentially brought into New Japan Strong more. Had a great match with Jay White, Lone Star Shootout. So maybe this match with Suzuki is more furthering that relationship. So we'll see what happens there. But this is the matchup: Mike Bailey versus Minoru Suzuki.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to checking that out, and we'll come back with our reviews of those and continue things next week. So.
Yep, and that's going to wrap things up for us here this week. Next week, we'll be back to review Windy City Riot and cover all the latest news. So if you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On Twitter, the show is at KI Strong Style. The network is at Social Suplex. You can follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan on Facebook. We're facebook.com/group/Wrestling Squared Circle and facebook.com/Social Suplex on Instagram. We're at Social Suplex on Reddit on the Pro Black Guy. Just Keeping It Strong Style. You can email me, Jeremy at socialsuplex.com. Also, you can check out our Discord server, Social Suplex Podcast Network. Link for that is in the description for the show. And check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. The Grave Consequences with Caleb and Maserati. All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin. The AEW Match Guide Podcast, hosted by Sir Sam. The Great Match Generator, hosted by Danny. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Have a happy Easter, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.
Underdog Fantasy is the fastest growing fantasy app and easiest place to play fantasy sports. Play season-long best ball, fantasy drafts where you only focus on the most fun part of fantasy, drafting your team. Just jump on UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app, draft your team, and that's it. Underdog handles the rest for you. No waivers, trades, or setting your lineups each week. And if drafts aren't your thing, they also have a pick'em game where you can win 20 times your money in a single night. Use promo code RADIO, and Underdog will double your first deposit when you sign up with up to $100 in bonus cash. Deposit $100, get $100 free. That's promo code RADIO. Terms and conditions apply.